Chapter 596, Great Peace Treasure Pavilions. Mo coughed lightly. I hear that Mo have long lifespans. Hearing this beginning, Fu Feng instantly panicked. Little Mo Gu, you cannot do this. His Highness. 100 years. Mo interrupted Fu Feng. Take it or leave it, there is no second offer. As for Xian Kong Temple, do not worry. I will destroy those thieving baldies sooner or later. I will not stop you from having your revenge. Mo's price scared everyone. Tao Xing's face was slightly pale, much less Fu Feng. He was completely white in fright. Bi Han was silent. Mo counted on his fingers. It is only 100 years, you will not lose out. Think about it. You are Mo, your life is long to begin with, 100 years, that's a flick of the finger, a brief moment of life. What is that worth? Think about it, this Sin Battalion, other than the things I've already talked about, I have to be responsible for after-sales services, equipping them, and also providing food and shelter, that's a huge expense. Think again, can you really charge into Xian Kong Temple the way you are now? Not just one Sin Battalion, even if you had 10 battalions, you will not manage to make it far. They are one of the great four. Even a hair of their back is thicker than you. Your thinking is very naive. Bi Han was silent. He knew that what Mo said was correct. No matter how strong he was, he could not destroy Xian Kong Temple with just Sin Battalion alone. They would not even be able to step onto Xian Kong Temple. The other had enough battalions to wear him down and also had defensive formations everywhere. If you do not care about revenge and are just seeking a way to die, then I have nothing further to say. But if it was me who had such great hate with Xian Kong Temple, it would be strange if I don't append them. I want them to cry when they hear the name of little Mo Gu, and then I will flatten Xian Kong Temple and burn it to the ground. Oh, that will be good. Bi Han's expression shifted, his fists unconsciously tightened. Brother, that is what pleasurable revenge is. What you want to do is called seeking your own death. You are providing Xian Kong Temple with a benefit, making it so they have one less thing to worry about. That's not how you take revenge. We need to consider strategy, timing, we need to strengthen ourselves, and weaken the other. Even if we cannot destroy them, we have to at least be like a fish bone stuck in their throat and make them uncomfortable, so that they cannot rest in peace. Mo's tone turned. Your skill in fighting is pretty good but not in this. However, I can do it. Mo patted his chest loudly, and said with a serious expression, I am the master of cloud siege. Yeah, I have many armies, and a specialized forging camp. I have Shouja, Yao, Mo in my service. If you work with me for 100 years, we strengthen our forces, then can't we step on Xian Kong Temple like stepping on a worm? Brother. Mo persuaded. Just 100 years, a slight fraction of your life. Compared to your deep hatred, what is that worth? Such a profitable transaction. All right. I agree. Bi Han suddenly raised his head, his face filled with murderousness. You are right, I want them to be unable to eat and rest in peace. Each day that we are alive, they will not rest in peace for that day. Fu Feng looked dazedly at His Highness. He had not expected His Highness to agree like this. He wanted to cry. What kind of person did not bargain when doing business? Great! Mo clapped his hand and said to Bi Han with an admiring expression. A true man has to be decisive like this. Tao Xing's face was slightly pale. He was completely frightened by this business deal that occurred right in front of him. 100 years. Such light words for 100 years of servitude. Now that he thought about it, the Mo embryos that he had to pay that day were really a cheap price. He looked in sympathy at Bi Han. Pitiful child, you are so pitiful to have to ask this person for help. Mo suddenly turned around and faced Tao Xing. Old Tao, the materials. Tao Xing, who was in a frightened state, almost jumped up. Ah 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 ah. Materials, oh, the materials, no problem. I will provide all of it, freely. Zhuemo was very happy and patted Tao Xing's shoulder warmly. Old Tao, I just knew that you are the one that understands me the best. Tao Xing's expression almost froze on his face as he nodded frantically. This is something that I should do. He really was frightened. So scary. In the sea of consciousness. 100 years is too short. Pu Yao was unsatisfied. You should have signed him for a lifetime. He would still agree, Wei said with a smile, if you will let him have his revenge. Zhuemo rolled his eyes. I, little Mo Go, care about hold to my morals when doing business. His tone suddenly changed as he said seriously. I use Shen power. Pu Yao and Wei simultaneously stilled. Zhuomo's face was grave. The last Jinji on the Xin battalion member that was connected to the soul was created with Shen power. Shen power? Pu Yao and Wei's expressions became grave. Xian Kong Temple has grasped Shen power. Wei was slightly surprised. I don't know, it should be a kind of Shen power that is not fully developed. Zhuemo thought and then said, but it definitely is a kind of Shen power. I cannot describe it. The Ling power I used was consumed and because there was no other way, I was forced to use Shen power in order to complete the Mo matrix. Pu Yao's expression recovered as he smiled coldly. Xian Kong Temple is not dumb. How can they not have any ambitions for obtaining Shen power? It probably isn't just them. The other sects probably are also studying it in secret. Zhuomo's mind shifted. So the truth is that the four great sects pursue the descendants of ancient tribes for Shen power? Clearly. Pu Yao's cold smile remained. They were not good people before. Be careful, do not let anyone else know that you cultivate Shen power, Wei said gravely. And, don't worry, it is not easy even for me to manipulate this Shen power, Zhuemo said helplessly. However, then his mood went up as he snickered. However, it is very beneficial for my Shen power when I remake the Mo matrices for Xin battalion. Especially those Jinji. There are many places where I need to use Shen power. I can profit and I can also cultivate Shen power, I'm really a genius. Ha! Oh, then they're less of a loss. Wei said neutrally. It is better than nothing. Pu Yao said lazily. Tseng Lianer was not in a good mood. It had been a few days since Zhuemo had cultivated. He was working on the Xin battalion. If Zhuemo did not cultivate, she could not use paired cultivation. She had already detected the increase of Shen power inside her body had slowed down. Her teacher had once told her that the cultivation method she used was not complete and there were many chapters that had been lost. Even though the previous generations had spent great effort to try to repair it, but it still could not reach the effects they hoped for. There were rarely those of her teacher's lineage that could cultivate Shen power. For example, her teacher's teacher never obtained Shen power. There were many details in a profound method like Shen power that could not be described in words alone. She had finally managed to cultivate Shen power and found someone to perform paired cultivation with. Her good fortune was many times that of her teacher. Yet what she felt helpless about was that Zhuemo was not currently cultivating. If Zhuemo did not cultivate, she could not use paired cultivation and her Shen power growth was unusually slow. She had tried to copy Zhuemo and went to read the Mo skill steals but she found she was quickly unable to keep reading. The things the Mo skill steals talked about were too simple. The final goal of the Mo skill steal was Shen power but that was just one section of the content and was extremely hidden. There was nothing mentioned about the things past obtaining Shen power. After reading through it, she threw it to the side. That time, she had only fought briefly with Qi Jiaoyu but she felt great wariness of the other's power. Her Shen power was still too weak and Qi Jiaoyu had managed to discover it. This really was too dangerous. If the news spread, she would have to run for her life. In the last few days, she did not leave the residence and stayed inside the courtyard. The compound was heavily guarded and even Qi Jiao Yu would not dare to carelessly charge in. But Sui Mo actually was not cultivating Shen power. Thinking about this, she was so angry she wanted to throw the teacup in her hand. He was not focusing on his actual work. She decided to think of a solution. Public safety is very chaotic recently. Princess Xin's brow creased. Bandits have kept appearing along the way. I heard that there are more bandits gathering to target us. A youth smiled and said, Princess, do not worry, with us guarding you, no matter how many they come, we just have a few more opponents to practice against. Princess Xian did not like the other's frivolous tone. There may be experts among the bandits. The youths neither shook their head or smiled. Most of them were strong even among their families and naturally looked down on the bandits. Princess Xia smiled. Elder sister does not need to worry. After a few more days, we will reach Great Peace City and have some peace. Princess Xin's expression eased slightly. Younger sister is right. There wasn't any battalion that dared to fight in Great Peace City. This was also applicable to the bandits. There had never been any bandits that dared to rampage in Great Peace City. Which of you have heard of the Great Peace Treasure Pavilion? A youth suddenly spoke. Great Peace Treasure Pavilion? What is that? The other youths heard this and crowded over. The youth had a proud expression. The news that just recently spread. Supposedly, Shi Ziming had collected innumerable treasures, so he built Great Peace Treasure Pavilion. In the first 3 years of the Great Peace City, this Great Peace Treasure Pavilion always existed and it was mentioned in many records. But later, due to unknown reasons, the Great Peace Treasure Pavilion disappeared, and Shi Ziming never talked about it again as though it never existed. All of the people's interests were stirred and they asked, and then? News spread just a while ago that the Great Peace Treasure Pavilion is going to appear again. We can have a good look when we go this time. Stop gossiping. Great Peace Treasure Pavilion. I've gone to Great Peace City many times and never heard of some Great Peace Treasure Pavilion. That might not be the case. I have seen records about the Great Peace Treasure Pavilion, I think on the Great Peace Travel Records. I've also read about it. Is there really a Great Peace Treasure Pavilion? We need to go search. If we find it, we'll be rich. Dream on. Great Peace Treasure Pavilion. Princess Xian seemed to think of something and an indecipherable light flashed through her eyes. Chapter 597, Shen Power Breathing. While people waited for the 3 princesses to reach Great Peace City, Sui Mo was in a disheveled state engraving Mo matrices for the Xin Battalion. Helping more than 3,000 members of Xin Battalion was like an ocean that he could not see the end of. They were the same Mo matrices that he repeated made and then awakened. After repeating hundreds of them, he knew what to do even if did so with his eyes closed. After doing more than 500, he wanted to throw up. However, he quickly found a miraculous method. He remembered that when he used the fire fist of the first heavenly stem, his Mo physique would burn while his Ling power and spiritual consciousness would continue to permeate into his body. He had found that when this state was maintained for a while, his Shen power would silently enter his head. He would enter a wondrous state where his mind was clear and without any emotion. All of his emotions seemed separate from him while his body and consciousness attained a very terrifying level of control. In this state, Sui Mo's every movement was flawless. Even his Shen power that he usually struggled to manipulate was able to be manipulated to do tasks of great difficulty. In this state, Sui Mo was like the perfect Mo puppet and his efficiency was several times higher than previously. He processed the Xin Battalion members one after the other, sending out of his room with their Jinji removed. All the people watching were shocked by his speed. They seemed to have a feeling that Sui Mo was completing the process as easily as drinking water. In a short span of 10 days, Sui Mo had finished all the work. More than 3,000 Xin Battalion members. He sent them all out of the room. When Zuoyamo exited from this wondrous state, exhaustion hit him like the tide and swallowed him in an instant. He felt his vision black out and he fell unconsciousness, hitting the ground with a thud. Xu Long and the others heard the noise inside the room. They paled and pushed open the room. When they went to go examine Zuoyamo, Tsing Lianer suddenly appeared. "It would be best if you do not touch him." Seeing the untrusting gazes of Xu Long and the others, she did not explain and said, "Wait for a moment and you will see." As expected, just as she finished speaking, faint golden light came out of Zuomo's body. This layer of golden light was very faint. If it was not that the light in the room was very dim, this layer of light would be very hard to detect. The weak light seemed to brighten and dim in turn as though it was breathing. Xu Long and the others carefully and quietly moved about, afraid they would disturb Zuomo. After Tsing Lianer stopped them, even the stupidest person understood that what was happening was not a bad thing. Tsing Lianer looked at Zuomo and a complex expression flashed across her face. She could not understand why this youth that appeared foolish, and did not possess an inheritance technique as complete as hers, was both ahead and advancing faster than her. Shen power. These two words had buried mountains of bones. How many geniuses had fallen under these two words and never obtained anything? Even an astounding genius like Qi Diaoyu was stuck outside the entryway and was unable to enter. Yet Zuomo had already reached the level of Shen power breathing. Zuomo probably did not know what Shen power breathing was, but Tsing Lianer, who had a more complete inheritance, knew that Shen power breathing was the sign that his Shen power had had an initial breakthrough. There had only been two ancestors in her lineage of teachers that had completed Shen power breathing. This was also why she had received such complete inheritance of knowledge. She had not yet solved the mystery of the shifting star sands, and now he had achieved Shen power breathing in front of her. Tsing Lianer could not help but feel slightly demotivated. Maybe this youth that did not look very unique contained a monster inside. It would be good if she could explore his body again. Tsing Lianer sighed inside. A situation like the previous one would occur once in 1,000 years and would not likely appear again. No one noticed that when the golden layer of light on Zuomo's body brightened and dimmed, the light in Agui's eyes seemed to respond, brightening and dimming in turn. Suddenly, there was a commotion outside. Tsing Lianer hearing was keen. When she focused, the sounds outside flooded into her ears. Look! What is that? Heavens! It is the Mo skill steals. Tsing Lianer's pupils suddenly contracted. Her figure flashed and she flew into the sky. When she got to a high height and looked in the direction of the Mo skill steals, she was instantly stunned, freezing where she was. The soaring steels seemed even more ancient in the night, like statues standing guard in the dark. They stood in rows and formed a forest. Yet at this time, the black steel forest was releasing faint aura, a sea of light. It brightened and dimmed as though it was breathing. Many Mo furiously flew towards the steel forest. There was joy on their faces, shock, and faint terror. After so many years had passed and nothing like this had ever occurred to the great piece Mo skill steals. Tsing Lianer seemed to be suddenly struck by lightning as she abruptly turned her head to look down. In the room below, the light flowing on Zuomo's body brightened and dimmed at the same rhythm. Finally, we are going to reach Great Peace City. Princess Xia stretched. The light gossamer silk was unable to conceal her fine figure. The exaggerated curves, the lazy and seductive expression on her face. It could cause any man to unconsciously swallow. Princess Xian smiled slightly. She was used to the scene in front of her. Even she couldn't help but admire Princess Xia's attractiveness sometimes. She said with a light laugh, "Yes, we have traveled for so many days. I just want to find a place to rest for a while. This smoke cloud beast is very good, but it is not comfortable enough." The smoke cloud beast was enormous and light. Its body was like a cloud or mist, and its stomach formed its own world and could hold thousands of people. It had a warm personality. While it was fast when it flew, it was very steady. Due to this, it was widely preferred by the prestigious families. The young masters that were seated all nodded in agreement. If it wasn't for the three princes here, none of them would be willing to stay inside for this long. Suddenly, everyone felt their bodies become heavy. One person said with a smile, "We're here, it is starting to descend." Just at this time, someone suddenly shouted in shock, "Quick, look! All of you, look!" People heard this exclamation. Surprised, they stood and flew into the sky. When their gazes turned to Great Peace City, they were all astounded by the scene in front of them. The skill steels that were the most eye-catching structure in the Great Peace City were shrouded in bright white light that pulsed like the breathing of a giant beast. Gongye Xiaorong rescued the remnants of the battalion. When he turned and saw the Yao battalion that had fled, he did not chase after them. His face was dark as he listened to his subordinate narrate what had happened. When he heard that Gongsun Cha did not hesitate in attacking them, a thick burst of killing intent flashed through his eyes. He decided to have the sect investigate where this Gongsun Cha really came from. Thinking about it now, Gongsun Cha did not seem to have any fear of Tian Huan, and his attitude could not be said to be friendly, but it did not seem to be hateful. After thinking about it, he felt that Gongsun Cha's attitude could be called fearlessness. It was clear that Gongsun Cha had great confidence in their power. Even facing Tian Huan, they did not have any fear. This was definitely the attitude of a great faction. Actually, when he received the news that the Yao battalion was attacking Blackstone Jia, he knew that he had made a fatal mistake. This Yao battalion had hidden by the side and waited for the best chance for a sneak attack. The leader's skill could not be underestimated. Gongye Xiaorong rescued the remnants of the battalions, but he did not head for Blackstone Jia. He sent the order to turn around. His subordinates paled and came to ask why did they not attack Blackstone Jia. Gongye Xiaorong forcibly suppressed all the questions. He did not explain himself and instead sent an order to travel at the fastest possible speed. He instantly understood Gongsun Cha's attitude from his response. The other would not object to attacking him from behind at a crucial moment. Was this person really a Shouja? Gongye Xiaorong shook his head and removed all of the stray thoughts from his mind. His eyes became determined again. They only had one road left. A Yao battalion had suddenly crossed Blood Sky Metropolis Jia and charged into the Four Realms. In a short 20 days, this Yao battalion seemed to be invincible and crossed 6 Jia. Before any battalion could react, they suddenly appeared in 10,000 Fortune Jia of Shixian realm. The Chaos Rift of 10,000 Fortune Jia was connected with the Yao realm. The two sides were in a fierce fight for control of the Chaos Rift. At such a crucial time the Liang Wei battalion suddenly appeared a ghost behind the Shouja lines and easily took control of the Chaos Rift. 10,000 Fortune Jia landed in the hands of the Yao. Then Liang Wei left the arrangements for the defense line to his allies and advanced deeper into Shouja territory alone. Before the Shouja could react, he had defeated 4 Jia. Along the way, he slaughtered everything and everyone, shocking people with his viciousness and ruthlessness. The Shouja along the way all fled in panic. In a few short days, the 4 Jia that had been prosperous days before were now empty of all people. Liang Wei's infamy quickly spread through the world. And on the same day, the female battle general, Mu Shi, of the Palace Lakewood clan suddenly attacked Blackstone Jia and took over. She also successfully cut off the retreat path between Gongye Xiaorong and Tian Huan. This meant that Gongye Xiaorong was now isolated and in a dangerous situation. In a short span of one day, the winds had suddenly shifted. In the previous conflicts the Yao had been at a disadvantage, but this sudden shift was without warning and Tian Huan and Shixian both suffered great losses. Shixian lost 4 Jia but that did not harm their core strength. In comparison, Tian Huan's hearts were burning. The loss of Gongye Xiaorong would be a great loss for them. In response, Tian Huan immediately put pressure on multiple battle fronts. When an enormous entity like Tian Huan moved at full power, the forces it could gather was terrifying. In a short 6 days, it defeated 6 Jie. 6 passages suddenly appeared between Tian Huan and the Mo realm, but each was still very far from Gongye Xiao Rong. Shi Xian was also furious about the loss of the 4 Jie. On one front, they sent famous generals to kill Yang Wei battalion, and on the other, they sent supplies and reinforcements to Guliang Dao. Guliang Dao, whose forces expanded in power, did not disappoint Shi Xian. He instantly surrounded the Mo that he had been facing and then ambushed the Mo battalion reinforcements that had come. Instantly, all barriers to Guliang Dao's advancement disappeared. Guliang Dao battalion moved in and captured 4 Jie. The battle situation suddenly reached a climax without anyone prepared for it. Chapter 598, Highest Priority Order. When Zhou Mo woke up, he felt unspeakably comfortable, refreshed and rid of all exhaustion. Darren. Xu Long, who had been waiting at the side, had a joyous expression. Zhou Mo smiled. When his gaze landed on a Gui sitting at the side, he showed surprise. He grabbed a Gui's hand and his brow furrowed. The Shen power inside a Gui's body had multiplied. What had happened? An increase in Shen power was good for other people, but for a Gui, it would only restrain her soul even more tightly. Damn it! What had happened? Zhou Mo's expression instantly became terrible. He wanted more than ever for the Shen power inside a Gui's body to completely disappear in exchange for her soul's freedom. The iciness of being restrained was the cruelest torture in the world. What happened last night? Zhou Mo asked in a deep voice. Xu Long was preparing to speak when a serene voice came from behind him. Shen power breathing. It was Tsing Lianer. Zhou Mo stilled. Shen power breathing? What is that? Every person's body is like a cup of water, and Shen power is like the salt in the water. When your Shen power cultivation reaches a certain level, your body and your Shen power would reach an equilibrium, and then Shen power breathing will occur. That means that your Bodhi's potential is unlocked. You achieved Shen power breathing last night. Zhou Mo was confused, but he knew that Tsing Lianer knew much more about Shen power than he did. After pondering it for a while, he shook his head and said, I do feel that I've recovered my energy, but I don't detect any change in my body. You just opened the lock, you still need to push open the door, Tsing Lianer said serenely. What does this have to do with the Shen power inside a Gui's body? Zhou Mo asked. A strange light flashed through Tsing Lianer's eyes. She glanced at Zhou Mo and said, I do not know, but I know that she definitely has a connection to you achieving Shen power breathing last night. Zhou Mo's brow creased even tighter. Suddenly, his hand was tightly gripped. It was a Gui that was holding his hand. Zhou Mo stilled and then showed joy. It had been very long since a Gui had made movements like this, since she had used her Shen power outside the Mist Village. He turned around. A Gui's expression was still wooden, but that hand was tightly gripping his hand. Zhou Mo was instantly put in a good mood. Darren, there was a strange situation at the Mo skill steals last night, and the 3 princesses have also reached Great Peace City, Xu Long reported. Zhou Mo was instantly distracted by the news of the 3 princesses and automatically dismissed the news about the Mo skill steals. He hurriedly asked, they have already arrived? Remember to go ask where they are staying. Xu Long was slightly puzzled, but he still nodded and noted it down. Zhou Mo then asked, how is Yiling doing? Tao Xing's Mo embryos had finally been delivered. He was fearful of being late. The transaction between Zhou Mo and Bihan scared him half to death. As a result, Zhou Mo was put onto the list of people he would pay off for peace of mind. Xu Long had a joyous expression again. His Mo embryo processing has been very smooth. He is cultivating. Should I call him over? Do not disturb him. Zhou Mo asked another question, where is Awen? He, the orange and black Yao, Nan Yu, and the others are all at the Mo skill steals. Shu Long said, Bihan has been in seclusion as he and Sin Battalion are cultivating. Sui Mo nodded. When he had been studying the Jinji on Sin Battalion, he discovered that Sin Battalion could cultivate. However, the cultivation method was very strange. After he engraved the Mo matrices, Bihan also needed to adjust. For a battle general, any tiny change in the battalion was something that could be crucial to victory. How are you processing the Mo embryos? Sui Mo asked. Of the Mo embryos from Tao Xing, the Day Mo embryo was given to Shu Long and the Nether Shadow Mo embryo to a 1. The other people did not have enough talent and the effects of using Mo embryos would not be very good. I have been guarding Darren, and a 1 has been at the Mo skill steals these days. We did not have the time to use them. Shu Long was slightly embarrassed. Sui Mo was moved and said, hand the administrative matters to someone else for a few days and focus on processing the Mo embryo. As for a 1, do not disturb him. Even though processing the Mo embryo could lead to a short-term increase in strength, a 1 was currently enchanted with the Mo skill steals. Adding on the epiphanies he should make great gains. The content on the Mo skill steals was detailed and expansive. Once one started to study it, it would be beneficial for the rest of their life. In comparison, the Mo embryo boost came fast, but it did not have long-lasting effects as studying the Mo skill steals. Sui Mo was slightly surprised that Nan Yu and the others also went to the Mo skill steals, but he decided not to interfere in this. Stopping his thought, he also realized that while Pu Yao seemed strict with these people, he was also very attentive. He would not let them go down the wrong path. If they were not Yao, he probably would not be able to keep these Mo embryos from Pu Yao. Right now, Princess Xia had reached Great Peace City. He also had enough people. Sui Mo's confidence grew. He decided to go tonight to take a look. If he could directly save Xiaoguo and Li Yingfeng, that would be the best. Miao Jun was directing Tang Fei. Without the celestial azure essence, the possibility that he could break through to the next level was not high. Even though Azure Air Kill had allowed him to touch the doorway to understanding domain, it had been many years Azure Air Kill was still stuck as the Azure Air Kill. He had not advanced from this level for many years. Losing to Sui Mo this time, he seemed to have let go of something on his mind and he became lighter. His days became easy and idle. He was the most relaxed and leisurely of all the people in the compound. He did not have any ambitions about cultivation, so his other great love started to show. After teaching Shu Long, he quickly found a new target, Tang Fei. In his eyes, this young female with the ponytail was a piece of raw jade. When Tang Fei learned that Miao Jun was a gold battle general, she was overjoyed and hurriedly asked for guidance. One was willing to teach and the other was willing to learn. The compound quickly became busy. Miao Jun frequently used the Celestial Plant Guard and the Guard Camp as subjects for demonstrations. Guard Camp was alright with this. Their strict regulations and their persistent attitudes did not make them resistant to training and they learned with all of their attention. On the other hand, Shou Ping's Celestial Planet Guard was worse off. These people that were usually provided with good food and drink were so exhausted by the training that they felt their bones would come apart. Many people ran over to Shou Ping to complain. Shou Ping could only go to Tsing Lianer in search of help. But Tsing Lianer said lightly, other people can manage it, but you cannot? How can my father's Celestial Planet Guard be so useless? Shou Ping's face flushed red and he wanted to find a crack in the ground to hide in. He was one of Tsing Yi's closest confidants. When had he been spoken to with such a demeaning tone? Without a sound, he turned and left. Returning to the campsite, he grabbed all the ones that were complaining and beat them up. Instantly, all of Celestial Planet Guard was silenced. Shou Ping was like a lion released from the cage. He would lead the troops personally in cultivation. Anything that Guard Camp could do, he had to do it as well. Tang Fei's battalion was not willing to be left behind and also worked hard. Miao Jun did not feel anything regarding this. He did not consider Celestial Planet Guard was Sua Mo's troop. There were not many people from Guard Camp and their combat style had already formed. Xu Long was more suited to lead them than he was. Xin Battalion was Bi Han's group. Coming from Xian Kong Temple, he had the qualifications to lead this famous Xin Battalion. With their compatibility, under Bi Han's command Xin Battalion's strength would be stronger than under Miao Jun. Tang Fei's battalion was the weakest of all the battalions. Even though Tang Fei was willing to give the battalion to Miao Jun to train, Miao Jun was not willing. This battalion was one that Tang Fei could use to realize her own ideals. Teacher, they all say that Xiao Mo Gu is a gold battle general, is it true? Tang Fei's eyes were wide and filled with curiosity. Miao Jun thought for a moment and then shook his head in helplessness. Even now, Darren is someone I cannot understand clearly. I would not find it strange for anything to occur to him. He looked at Tang Fei's doubtful expression and said with a smile, I know that you have objections about Darren, but in reality, he is a very good person. Look at the people in the compound, especially his subordinates, they all trust him greatly and are very loyal. Also, have you noticed that his battalion is different than other battalions? Different? Tang Fei stilled and sank into thought. His battalion has a very unique attitude, they are persistent, and will always pursue becoming stronger. Miao Jun's expression started to turn serious. You are also a battle general and you should know how difficult it is to influence a battalion to be like this. You should also know just how terrifying a battalion like this will be. Tang Fei pondered Miao Jun's words. You cannot just look at the surface of a person, Miao Jun said meaningfully. Ha! Did you hear? Tian Huan lost in front of our formations. So what if it is Tian Huan? Competing against our Golden Crow camp in formations, they don't want to live. Che, you are celebrating over such a small matter. So useless. It is a pity that the Yao battalion did not charge. I wanted to see the power of the formations I set up. I'm really not used to being relaxed recently. I wonder how Darren is doing. Recently there were fewer and fewer MO that needed to have MO matrices inscribed. Other than the fact they needed to meet the threshold percentage of a bloodline, there was also the problem of loyalty. Shi Dong had only taken over Little Savage Jie recently and his control was not firm. Darren is so strong, there definitely isn't a problem. Xu Long and the others have reached Darren, don't worry. I really hope that Darren can come back soon. Yes. Suddenly, Master Ji Wei and Sun Bao appeared in front of everyone. They all stopped talking and some people's eyes started to turn bright. The last time the two masters had appeared like this, they had led them in the study of the MO matrices, it had been like a battle. Even though it was unusually hard, it still excited them when they thought back. It was also this last time that they finally realized the power they possessed. As the number of MO matrices that needed to be engraved had decreased, they felt restless from the relaxation after the tense times. Many people were dispirited and lazy. So when the two masters appeared together, their excitement was woken up again. Everyone quieted down and looked at the two masters. Ji Wei's expression was stern. He did not waste and directly said, just now, we received an emergency order from Gongsun Darren. Rumbles of noise sounded. People had nervous expressions. Had the state of affairs changed again? Sun Bao did not stop the discussion below and said in a deep voice, please note, this is the highest priority order. The crowd instantly quieted and everyone's faces became grave. There was only one circumstance where a highest priority order would be sent out, when the situation was extremely dangerous. Everyone understood something had happened. In the silent lecture hall, Sun Bao's deep yet unusually determined voice echoed. We need to think of all ways in the shortest amount of time to help Guard Camp increase their combat abilities. All methods are to be considered. Master Sun Bao looked around and met each pair of eyes. This is not a request, this is an order. Chapter 599, Night Visit. Gongsun Cha stared at the Jie map, a thread of darkness flashing through his eyes. Everyone else stared at the Jie map with similarly terrible expressions. We do not have enough battalions, Wei Ran said gravely. Based on Guliang Dao's speed and the path of his advance, our path to Darren will soon be cut off. Everyone was silent. What Wei Ran said was what they were most worried about. Orchid Home Jie was at the border of 100 Savage Realm and Dark Realm. Theoretically, it was the best meeting point. Zhua Mo could first reach Orchid Home Jie to meet up with everybody before heading to Dark Realm. Yet no one had expected for Guliang Dao to pop out of nowhere. He coincidentally appeared on the path that Zhua Mo would take to Orchid Home Jie. Shi Xian had been putting in great effort recently, and caused there to be a higher risk that this path would be cut off. But Lil Miss did not have enough battalions on his hands. Orchid Home Jie was not safe. With the Yao as their neighbors, he needed a strong battalion to defend it. If they lost control of the Chaos Rift, everyone understood what that meant. I have already sent the highest priority order to Golden Crow Camp, Gongsun Cha said gravely. If it really comes down to it, we will position Black Turtle Camp here, and Vermilion Bird Camp would be responsible for advancing. The mood inside the hall was pressuring. Gongsun Cha's idea was extremely risky. Black Turtle Camp was strong, but no one knew if they could hold this Chaos Rift. The Yao battalion in the neighboring Black Stone Jie was strong. Gongye Xiaorong had disappeared, but if there was a chance, he would definitely pop out to take a bite. If Lil Miss was not here in person, in such serious circumstances, even with Vermilion Bird Camp, no one dared to claim absolute confidence in defending the Chaos Rift. But even if Black Turtle Camp could hold this place, it was even more difficult for Vermilion Bird Camp to carve open a path. Guliang Dao's appearance completely disrupted all of Lil Miss' plans. If the path was cut off, then there was no meaning to holding Orchid Home Jie. They would need to take a long detour before they could meet up with Zhua Mo. Wei Ran and the others had already calculated this alternative route. If the path was cut off, the nearest point they could meet up with Zhua Mo was one where they had to pass through 62 Jie. One battalion passing through 62 Jie. Just the number of fights they would encounter was enough to make their scalp feel numb. In comparison, it was more realistic to fight for control of the path against Guliang Dao. Gongsun Cha did not feel any fear towards Guliang Dao and Shi Xian. But he did not have enough forces in his hands. There was nothing to do if he did not have the manpower. Right now, all these Jie needed people standing guard. Compared to those large sects, their foundations were still too thin. Lil Miss stood there silent. In the night, 3 figures landed and flashed through the air like 3 ghosts. Zhua Mo and Agui were next to each other with Tsing Lianer half a step behind. Zhua Mo originally didn't want Agui to come, but Agui, whose Shen power had increased, seemed to have her own ideas now. She did not make a sound, but she would always stay within a step of Zhua Mo. It was useless no matter what Zhua Mo said to her. Tsing Lianer following them left Zhua Mo puzzled, but he did not stop her. She was a very good assistant, and since she wanted to follow, he would let her. Tsing Lianer was like a wisp of smoke in the night. Her movements were elegant and held a thread of eeriness. Agui was like a puppet that was completely void of life. She was completely silent. Her bare feet moved in her usual pace. But there was no flow of air, no sound, and no vibrations. Zhua Mo's movements were like that of a cat, relaxed and agile. His movements were balanced as though he was sliding through the air. All 3 were wearing masks. These were masks that Zhua Mo had just made and did not have any other use except to stop people from seeing their true faces. The 3 had even changed the shape of their figures. If they did not take off their mask, no one would think it was them. Looking at the sumptuous palace in front of them, a light flashed through Zhuo Mo's eyes. Xiao Guo. Li Ying Feng. Incoming. Great Peace Treasure Pavilion. Princess Xian sighed lightly. She seemed to be murmuring to herself, and that pair of eyes that enchanted countless people showed bewilderment and helplessness. She murmured in light voice, "Is this fate?" She thought of the shocking scene from last night. At that time, the entire Mo Skill Steel Forest had seemed to breathe. She almost cried. In the corner, a warrior covered in thick armor stood with a sword the size of a door. There was no opening on his entire body. Even his face was securely covered. No one knew of his true features. Everyone knew that Princess Xian had a heavily armored guard with her, but no one had ever seen him fight. He never spoke and only stood behind Princess Xia with that sword of his as he ignored the suitors. Princess Xian rubbed the chain ornament on her forehead, something that she never took off, and sighed. Her expression was extremely lonely. She curled up like a cat afraid of the cold. There was none of the confidence and elegance that she usually had. Suddenly, the statue-like armored guard suddenly moved with an unusual agileness that was not clumsy at all. He appeared next to the door. Princess Xin's eyes were wide as she looked at the heavy armor guard in shock. It was the first time she had seen him react so strongly. What had happened? "Princess, sleep early." Zhu Ke, whose hair and beard were white, looked benevolently at Princess Wan as though she was his own grandchild. As Princess Wan was someone he had watched grow up since she was little, she was like his granddaughter. "Grandpa Zhu, is there really a Great Peace Treasure Pavilion?" Princess Wan's eyes were wide and her expression curious. Zhu Ke couldn't help but give a smile. His wrinkle-covered face crinkled. "Does Princess like Treasure Pavilion?" "Yes, yes. It seems very interesting. Grandmaster Shi Ziming is so strong, there must be many treasures." Princess Wan's eyes were full of longing. "Ha!" Zhu Ke couldn't help but laugh. He affectionately caressed Princess Wan's hair. "If Princess wants it, this old servant will go search and see if there are any when the time comes." "Really?" Princess Wan exclaimed happily. "That's great. Great Peace Treasure Pavilion, it makes people excited just thinking about it. It is much more interesting than eating with those people. It has been hard for Princess these past few days." Zhu Ke said caringly. Princess Wan shook her head. "I can help Daddy like this, it is not a hardship. Princess is really mature." Zhu Ke praised. Suddenly, his hand imperceptibly stilled. He said in a gentle voice, "Princess, go to sleep, it is late." An indistinguishable presence spread. Princess Wan's eyelids became heavy. She yawned and said, "Grandpa Zhu. I'm sleeping." Before she could finish, she entered her dreams. Zhu Ke carefully tucked the blanket around her. When he slowly turned around, a thread of harshness flashed through his eyes. "Has the matter of the Mo Skill Steals been resolved?" There was no smile on Princess Xia's smile like there usually was, and her tone was harsh. "Princess, no." The subordinate trembled and said. "You trash." Princess Xia's face was cold. "How many years has the family stationed you here for? You are unable to solve such a minor matter. And Great Peace Treasure Pavilion. Such a great matter and you did not hear a thing." The subordinate did not dare to even breath. Everyone knew if they argued with the princess now, it would end terribly for them. "What clues are there about the rumors of the Great Peace Treasure Pavilion?" Princess Xia continued to ask severely. "After so many years and no one knows a thing, yet suddenly the whole world knows. There is definitely something going on. This subordinate is useless." Pia, a incense pot landed on this Mo's face and blood instantly flowed. This Mo did not dare to move and allowed the blood to drip down his face onto the ground. "Trash. A group of trash." Princess Xia panted angrily. Her flushed chest seemed to almost pop out, but no one dared to look. A moment later, Princess Xia's anger settled. She said coldly, "Xiao Mo Gu. If you say you are still not able to tell me anything, then you can die in front of me." This Mo hurriedly said, "This subordinate has made a thorough investigation of Xiao Mo Gu. He first appeared in Shattered Stone Jie. One of the women with him is the daughter of the Jie master Tseng Yi. Tseng Yi is a white fang snake Mo and has cultivated the white fang Mo physique. He had once refused the invitation of Marshal Yu. He also killed one of Marshal Ye's subordinates. Xiao Mo Ge's subordinates are guard camp who came from a very distant place. Right now, their earliest appearance that we have tracked is in Little Savage Jie, which is now in the hands of someone called Sherdong. This person is not very strong but is a pretty good battle general." Princess Xia showed some interest. The subordinate's investigation was very detailed, but it held many strange details. She understood the subordinates well. They might be useless, but if they did not investigate thoroughly, they would not dare to speak. "What do you think of Xiao Mo Gu?" she suddenly asked. The subordinate stilled. He hesitated and then gritted out, "This subordinate thinks that Xiao Mo Gu is the most outstanding genius that this subordinate has seen in all these years. He can rank with Qi Jiaoyu." "Rank with Qi Jiaoyu." Princess Xia had an amused expression. She waved her hand and said lazily, "Wipe up the blood and leave." "Yes." The subordinates hurriedly retreated as though they were pardoned. "What do you think?" Princess Xia suddenly asked. The person the question was directed to was her maid. This maid was about 40 years old with an average appearance. There wasn't any presence to her. The middle-aged maid said, "The Great Peace Treasure Pavilion is real." "I know." Princess Xia raised an eyebrow. "And then?" At this time, the middle-aged maid's expression changed. She turned to look towards the window. At this time, a clear voice came from a distance, "Which coward dares to break into the princess' residence in the middle of the night? Come out. Beg for forgiveness from the princesses. Do not dirty Ye's hands." Chapter 600, The intuition of a woman's Mo had not thought that he would be discovered even before he popped up. He gestured to Agui and Tseng Lianer to not move and then he slowly walked forward. He did not believe the other had detected Agui and Tseng Lianer. Truthfully, if he himself did not know they were there, he would have been unable to detect their presence even if they were beside him. As expected, Suo Mo's gamble paid off. He really was the only one that was discovered. Compared to the other two, he really was lacking. Suo Mo felt slightly embarrassed. He was very skilled in single combat and large-scale battles, but it seemed that he didn't have enough experience in sneaking around. Since he was not able to sneak in, then he would have to change his approach and use himself to test the other's forces. In Suo Mo's eyes, Princess Xia was his enemy. He understood that he had to learn about his enemy. "Who are you?" Suo Mo's voice became unusually hoarse through the mask. As expected, a coward. A mouse. Shin Yu said dismissively. His appearance was handsome. As he stood on the roof, he appeared as a celestial looking down from on high. In comparison, Suo Mo, who had changed the shape of his body, looked wretched. He wore an extremely ugly mask on his face and his voice was grating. "I admire Princess Xia and have come to make a night visit." "Who are you? Why are you stopping me?" Suo Mo was righteous. However, when combined with his lowly state, he seemed extremely perverted. "A person like you dares to ask to see Princess Xia." It would have been fine if it was any other princess, but when Shin Yu heard it was Princess Xia, the one he was in love with, he instantly felt uncomfortable looking at this person. He couldn't help but speak with disdain. "I'm very ugly but I'm very gentle," Suo Mo said righteously. Then his voice became strange. "Who are you? Princess Xia decides who she sees. What is the meaning in you stopping me?" Are you afraid that princess will fall in love with me? Hey, brother, we have to compete fairly. Bursts of laughter came from the surroundings. Someone even said in an audible voice, Brother Shen, he is right. The Shen family had some strength, but which one of these young masters did not have a background? There were still some that could rival Shen Yu. However, it was just that no one was as strong as him, so he dominated all of them. Now that they had a chance to throw stones while he was unable to strike back, they would not pass on this chance. Hem, this virtuous brother, your true heart is known since you took such a great risk and climbed the compound walls this late at night. We need to give him a chance. Someone else praised loudly, yes. He is ugly but very gentle. Very ugly. Very gentle. The crowd continued to jeer. Zuo pretentiously bowed in all directions and said loudly, Everyone, you are all gentlemen. Shen Ye's face turned green. Zuo was speaking but inside, he was carefully inspecting the surroundings. He discovered several barely discernible presences that gave him a great feeling of danger. As expected, the guards of the three princesses were outrageously powerful. Zuo knew that their plan tonight had failed. The guards of the three princesses were stronger than he imagined. What was most depressing was that the three princesses even slept in connecting residences. He clearly had disturbed several experts. The others were hard on Shen Yu, but he was not a stupid person. He knew that one could not win in a verbal contest against hundreds. His expression recovered its calm and a hint of murderousness flashed through his eyes. He said coolly, The princess is of noble status, and nothing is allowed to happen to her. Since this brother is not willing to introduce yourself, then this one will test you. Before he finished speaking, he leapt at Zuo. Do not make too much noise, the princess is sleeping. A wizened voice lightly sounded in everyone's ears. Midair, Shen Ye's presence suddenly decreased. Behind the mask, Zuo's face changed slightly. This voice that abruptly appeared was not loud. It was actually very soft, as though it was a whisper by his ear, but caused Zuo to feel cold inside. However, at the beginning, he had felt several faint presences lock onto him. He knew that experts were present, so he was shocked but not panicked. As for Shen Yu, who was currently charging at him, in Zuo's eyes, he was strong in appearance but weak inside. Such a stupid thing to become timid during a fight just because of some words. If this was a real fight, this person would already be dead. Zuo did not have anything to consider because those presences had been locked onto him from the beginning. Tonight, the other side would not easily let him leave. Fighting could not be avoided. So when he saw Shen Yu decrease his power because of the voice, he smiled behind the mask. But soon, Zuo was unable to smile because he didn't know what move to use. Actually, both Sky Glass Wave and the Fire Fist of the first Heavenly Stem were suited to this situation and definitely would break the other's face. But if he used those moves, it would be equivalent to telling all of Great Peace City that he did it. If it was Yao Arts, he could use the archaic Wasteland Sacrificial Art, but he remembered that he had used Little Yao Arts when he fought Miao Jun's Zuo was full of regret. There weren't many Mo that used Yao Arts in the first place. Ling Power, should he use the Li Water Sword Scripture? Shen Power, he wasn't a Gui or Tsing Lianer. Zuo found to his grief and fury that he did not have any moves to use. As expected, he had not done enough sneaking around and was inexperienced. Without another word, Zuo turned and ran. You want to run? Shen Yu smiled coldly. As the others had mocked him, he had been full of rage, but he had suppressed it. Now that he found the other did not dare to fight, the rage shot back up. He suddenly accelerated, his presence locking onto Zuo. Zuo laughed and said loudly, Princess Xia, I will not give up. Finishing, his body suddenly broke free from Shen Ye's grip. Right after, the previously faint presence suddenly increased and the air around Zuo became as strong as iron. Zhua Mo was prepared and he suddenly used all the power in his body with threads of Shen power mixed in. A gold light flashed through his eyes. Like a pickaxe, he smashed against the rock-hard barrier of air in front of him. Bam! An explosion. The air around Zhua Mo exploded and in the cloud of white mist, someone seemed to run through. Shen Ye's expression changed. His right hand struck at empty air. The mist dissipated. There wasn't anything left. Returning to the compound, Zhua Mo did not have a good expression. Especially when he saw the undisguised mirth in Tseng Lianer's eyes, he felt even worse. However, little Mo Gu was not one that would be defeated by a minor setback like this. Once to try and twice to be familiar, he reviewed what he had learned. His concealing technique was not good enough. Of the three, he was the only one that was discovered. This clearly indicated a problem. Otherwise, he lacked combat moves that could be used while disguised. Otherwise, that person's face would have bloomed into a flower already. He had also gained a lot today. He was now sure that all the princesses had strong experts with them. This was not unexpected, but it was troublesome for him. Experts were always willing to serve prestigious families and not battalions. In reality, there were not many experts in battalions that had reached general level. To reach general level, one had to have an exceptional obsession with cultivation to achieve such a high level. Those people usually did not like strict regulations, such as those battalions followed. Most of the general levels in battalions were battle generals. They were general level but they were not strong in single combat. It was the same with Shouja and Yao. The other reason was that in battle, the death rate of general level was very high. In a conflict between battalions, any general level or Yuanying Shouja would be targeted first. However, it was very difficult to nurture a Yuanying Shouja while battalions were comparatively cheap. Other than a life or death battle, no sect would take the risk and let its Yuanying Shouja come out to fight. As to those in martial level and above, nothing needed to be said about them. So, sometimes, it was much more of a headache to encounter experts like this than a powerful battalion. Zhua Mo had a great headache now. Those experts stopped any possibility of him sneaking in to investigate. In comparison, Pu Yao and Wei's plan was much more plausible. Receive the admiration of the princess, get close to the princess, have the princess try to recruit him, and then state his conditions. His reputation in Great Peace City was known, and he wondered if Princess Xia would admire him. Pu Yao's method was good but it was too passive. All the initiative was in the hands of Princess Xia. This caused Zhua Mo to feel very discomfort. Maybe he could use a more proactive method. Zhua Mo's eyes grew brighter. The person just now. Princess Xia noticed the expression on the middle-aged maid's face and couldn't help asking. Very strong, the middle-aged maid said, he might have purposefully made himself look ugly. His strength is above average and there is nothing that I could discover. Above average? Princess Xia had an interested expression. How much above average? We used our presences to lock onto him but he was still able to escape, the middle-aged maid said coolly. Then that is really above average. Princess Xia was thoughtful. She suddenly asked, is he here for the Great Peace Treasure Pavilion? Hard to say, the middle-aged maid said grave, the matter is very fishy this time. The news spread so suddenly. Someone is working in the shadows. Do other people know about the Great Peace Treasure Pavilion? Princess Xia looked at the middle-aged maid. Impossible. The middle-aged maid said with a cold smile, I spent so many years to uncover this secret. Does Shi Ziming have any descendants? Princess Xia said gravely. None. The middle-aged maid shook her head. My mother served him for many years, and never saw him with any woman. He was an old man with a pure heart. Princess Xia laughed. I hope that the people of Great Peace City won't be as dull as Shi Ziming. You are not interested in Xiao Mo Gu. The middle-aged maid was slightly puzzled. The timing of when he appeared is too coincidental. Princess Xia had a smile. Don't you feel that he seems to be waiting for us? Even though I do not know which one of us is his target, my intuition keeps telling me this. Chapter 601, The intolerant Lil Miss Mo did not know that Princess Xia already had suspicions about him, but even if he did not have an avenue of retreat. Actually, in his mind, there was still one final plan. Bihan would take Xin Battalion and capture Princess Xia. This would be the last alternative because he knew if he really did that, it would be the same as poking a hornet's nest. They would then have a difficult time moving about in the Mojie. So Mo did not want to use such an extreme method. However, if the other methods were not effective, he did not object to using this final hand. Of course, there was also another reason. Bihan still needed time to adjust to the new Xin Battalion. Mo's mind was completely focused on Princess Xia and did not care about something like the Great Peace Treasure Pavilion. He decided to be more proactive and hadn't expected an opportunity to come to him. Inviting me? Mo looked at the invitation in his hand. After scanning through it, he was slightly puzzled. Who is this Shi Yue? Shi Yue is the present master of Great Peace City. Tao Xing had an admiring expression when he saw Mo was puzzled. The fact he had received an invitation from the master of Great Peace City indicated that Mo's strength had received acknowledgement from Great Peace City. Shi Yue. Mo murmured and then he suddenly raised his head. What is the connection between this guy and Shi Ziming? Tao Xing felt very helpless about Mo's slow wit. He is Grandmaster Shi Ziming's student. Ever since Grandmaster passed on, he became responsible for managing Great Peace City. Shi Ziming's student. Mo's expression suddenly became respectful. He respected Shi Ziming a lot. Even now, he had not finished reading the Mo skill steals but just the content he had read so far was enough for him to benefit greatly. Also, the Great Peace Mo skill steals were open to everyone to read. It really lived up to the reputation of the Great Master to be so generous. Shi Yue is like his teacher and has never cultivated a Mo skill. However, he is truly a wise person. Tao Xing showed a respectful expression. His gaze can penetrate the mists and see the heart of a person. After the Grandmaster passed, Great Peace City's reputation did not decline due to Shi Yue's efforts. Then he warned gravely, do not be disrespectful to City Master Shi Yue. You cannot imagine how much he is respected in Great Peace City. If you offend City Master Shi Yue, you will become the enemy of the entire city. This serious? Mo was slightly shocked. He has helped many people, including the top-ranked individuals on the Great Peace Mo rankings. Every one of them has received his guidance. The experts that have received the generosity of City Master Shi Yue would unconsciously protect him and Great Peace City. For example, Chang Yuan Hao, Yu Shuang, Nanmen Shui, they all stay in Great Peace City with the intentions of helping City Master Shi Yue. Remember the person that broke Qi Jiao Yesmo sound when he entered the city? That was Nanmen Shui. Mo instantly remembered that Qi Jiao Yesmo sound had affected the entire street. However, a single cold snort had broken the Mo sound. He had been shocked at Qi Jiao Ye's strength and had not thought further. Now that he thought back, he was startled. As expected of the third ranked on the Great Peace Mo ranking. The strength of Nanmen Shui was unfathomable. If Nanmen Shui who was ranked third was already so strong, then how powerful was Chang Yuan Hao and Yu Shuang that were ranked first and second respectively? Thinking about the three indiscernible presences last night, Mo felt his head swell. There were so many experts. The fight with Miao Jun made him understand that anyone that was able to enter the Great Peace Mo ranking was someone strong. No one was weak. So many experts meant that his plans had many hidden flaws. Zuo now felt that it wasn't plausible to use Xin Battalion to capture Princess Xiao. To say of nothing else, if 20 general-level individuals decided to charge at once, there were definitely no battalions that would be able to withstand it. This was a terrifying power. Zuo finally saw the power of Great Peace City. When the number of experts reached a certain level, the amount of strength it represented exponentially increased. Zuo's expression changed. In the past, he had been confident, but now he found that the matter was more troublesome than he had imagined. Right now, he had to plan one step at a time. This is the ice mist Mo embryo, a kind of Mo embryo produced in our cloud Xijie. We found this through the mist people. Master Ji Wei pointed at something that looked like a ball of cotton. It was faintly blue and slowly moved on the table. The greatest use of the Mo embryo is to help Mo cultivate their Mo physique. Master Jia Wei said slowly, and the other people listened to him with concentration. The ice mist Mo embryo is very suited to the Mo that can cultivate the ice mist Mo physique. We have discovered that once a person achieves the Mo physique, their strength would multiply. The reason is that the Mo embryos have complete Mo matrices. These Mo matrices are transferred to the Mo through consumption. The Mo matrices of the Mo embryos are absorbed and refined. They would grow alongside the Mo matrices of the user, and form a new set of complete Mo matrices. During this time, through the efforts of everyone, we have continuously analyzed the Mo matrix of the Mo embryos. We have finally gained some understanding of the Mo embryo and Mo physique. Mo matrices are good things, but very rare. Up until now, the Ice Mist clan has only found 3 Mo matrices. The goal of our next stage is to create objects similar to Mo embryos. We do not need them to be as complex as true Mo embryos, they only need a few Mo matrices as the core. Also, we need to find Mo matrices which can be outlines for the growth of the Mo embryo. Form teams of 3. Every 3 days, we will have a collective discussion session. All raw materials are available for use, and we will try to find any materials you require. You can freely test any ideas you have. Everyone's eyes grew brighter. They felt excited about this goal. They were not the ignorant country bumpkins of the past. Every person present here was skilled in Mo matrices and seal formations. In any other place, they would be talents that all the factions would fight over. Of all the camps on Turtle Island, Golden Crow Camp grew in size the slowest. The 2 masters had strict tests for every shouja that applied to enter Golden Crow Camp. However, Golden Crow Camp's good atmosphere and the benefits that were unimaginably good earned the favor of all production shouja in Cloud Xijie. For them, this was a difficult and enormous challenge. But here, no one disliked challenges. Everyone seated here all knew that if they completed this mission, it would be a great upheaval for the entire world. Darren. This subordinate is willing to guard Orchid Home Jia. Ma Fan ran to Orchid Home Jia and asked. Not possible. Gong Sun Cha shook his head without even thinking. If this chaos rift was lost, the consequences were unimaginable. While Black Turtle Camp had performed well in their last battle, Gong Sun Cha was still not reassured. Darren. Today, Gu Liang Dao has taken another Jia. Ma Fan's words caused Gong Sun Cha's expression to immediately darken. No one had expected that Gu Liang Dao, who only days before had been an unknown name, was so ferocious. Darren, this subordinate will guard this place and will not attack. Even though Black Turtle Camp is not as strong as Vermilion Bird Camp, with the formations as defense, it will not be easy for others to take this place if we do not leave the formation. Also, with Middle Granary Jia at our back, Black Turtle Camp can receive reinforcements at any time. This subordinate has confidence in fighting a defensive battle. Ma Fan's words streamed and he did not retreat. Also, there is Guard Camp. Even though Shu Long and the strongest members are not present, but there is a significant number of people left. No matter if it is Black Turtle Camp or Guard Camp, they are both battalions skilled in defense. This subordinate does not believe that with these 2 battalions and the formation defenses, we cannot hold this place. Gong Sun Cha was slightly persuaded. Ma Fan was right, Xu Long was not here but guard camp should not have a problem fighting a defensive battle. With Cloud Sea Jie's present wealth, they might be able to afford a battle of attrition. Everyone looked at Gong Sun Cha. Everyone knew that Gong Sun Cha's next orders were crucial for all of Cloud Sea Jie. Gong Sun Cha's gaze landed on the Jie map. On the Jie map, the Jie that Gu Liangdao had just taken was dyed red. There were several red Jie that had formed a shape. The shape's outline was like the edge of a blade dyed in blood that pointed directly at the faint blue path as though it would cut the path at any moment. Gu Liangdao, who had come out of nowhere, now rivaled Jiang Zhe in reputation. The title of Xixian Tiger General rang over the entire world. Lil Miss gaze suddenly calmed down. For him, there was nothing more important than Zhuo Mo's safety. If the situation was so extreme that it required using the lives of all the people under his command to exchange for Zhuo Mo, Gong Sun Cha would not hesitate at all. This was Gong Sun Cha, crazy, obsessive, and at times unreasonable. Maybe his actions would be understood by other people or maybe not, he did not care. He only cared about 2 things, Zhuo Mo and victory. When Zhuo Mo was present, Lil Miss decisions always looked gentle and harmless. But when Zhuo Mo was not present, Lil Miss' harsh and intolerant style was reflected in every one of his decisions. Everyone knew that Lil Miss had made a decision. They stopped breathing and waited for Lil Miss' decision. Orders. Whoosh, everyone suddenly stood up. In their eyes, Lil Miss had a calm expression. His tone was calm, but it was one that could not be disobeyed. He said with a decisiveness that was as sharp as a blade. Black Turtle Camp and Guard Camp will hold Orchid Home Jie together, Ma Fan has command. Green Dragon Camp will guard Middle Granary Jie and listen to Ma Fan's orders. Ma Fan bowed solemnly to Gong Sun Cha and said with a rare expression of graveness, I will not fail. Lil Miss nodded and did not speak. He turned and looked at the other people. Vermilion Bird Camp and Ajia Gu Battalion, immediately gather. We will depart in 3 days. The cold order was full of fighting spirit. Yes. The commanders accepted. Everyone's faces flashed with excitement. Vermilion Bird Camp was a group of battle maniacs to start with, and Gong Sun Cha's style was deeply imprinted on this battalion. They were like caged beasts after fighting defensively in the past while. The blood inside them had been restless. Now that they received the order to depart, the fighting spirit could not be suppressed any longer. Gong Sun Cha suddenly smiled like a blooming flower. The light of his eyes were so bright that no one could look at it directly. The smile at the corner of his mouth was as bashful as ever, but the words that came out softly caused everyone's blood to boil. We are going to meet Xixian's Tiger General. Chapter 602, The Drunken Little Mo Gu. Inside Great Peace Palace, laughter and conversations could be heard, beauties were plentiful and people filled all the seats. The servants weaved between the crowds of people offering food and drink as they occasionally stopped and paid their respects. Zhuo Mo gazed at the scene in front of him with a dazed face. The streams of people caused him to feel overwhelmed. A pleasing tune, a tempting fragrance of wine, and a delicious smell of food floated through the air. He had not expected the busy scene in front of him at all. In his imagination, Shi Yui's banquet should be dignified and elegant, and even slightly solemn. Who had expected it would be like this? In the eyes of Zhuo Mo, this was chaos. Little Mo Gu, who could kill his way through the battlefield, didn't know how to react when faced with this scene. Hey, brother Xiao Mo Gu. A familiar voice came from behind him. Zhuo Mo turned to look and instantly had an expression of joy. Huh, brother Lan. The one that had greeted him was Lan Tianlong, and his brother Lan Rong was beside him. Brother, you didn't come find me to drink. Since we have met today, I won't spare you. We won't leave until we are drunk. Lan Tianlong laughed vigorously. Suemo had a pretty good impression of Lan Tianlong. At this time, Lan Tianlong's appearance was a lifesaver. He said, "Then I will follow Brother Lan around." "No problem. In this great peace city, this little brother is at least familiar with the people." Lan Tianlong easily agreed. He then introduced Lan Rong beside him. "This is my younger brother Lan Rong." Suemo and Lan Rong exchanged greetings. Lan Rong's presence was completely different compared to Lan Tianlong, appearing delicate and serene. Lan Rong was filled with curiosity about Suemo. He had been observing Suemo in secret all this time. With someone leading the way, Suemo felt assured he would not embarrass himself. He followed Lan Tianlong as they chatted about random things. Lan Tianlong was holding a jar of wine in his hand that was about the height of his knee. When he met someone, he would raise the jar of wine, and toss his head back to drink. He did not care about the liquid that wetted his clothing, and it seemed full of bravado. Suemo was charmed when he saw this. He copied Lan Tianlong and held a wine jar as well. He did not refuse anyone that came to him and allowed the alcohol to spill over his body. He felt that this was an unspeakably free and pleasurable manner to enjoy himself. Lan Tianlong's way of drinking was very unique, and it was rare that he encountered someone that drank like him. His interest was stirred, and he and Suemo roamed around to find people to drink with. Lan Rong followed the two with a grimace and occasionally apologized to the people in the surroundings for the two of them. "I'm telling you, old man shares wine, it is all good wine." Lan Tianlong's tongue was starting to twist and slur his words, his eyes were unfocused. One of his hands was on Suemo's shoulder, the other holding the wine jar, as he said indistinctly, "You have to drink more, if you drink more, then it is profitable, good wine." "You are, too right." Suemo's face was flushed. He pointed a finger and waved it. His head waved along with his finger as he said, "If one does not take the bargain, then they are a bastard." "Ha ha ha ha. Good. Come, drink." Lan Tianlong grabbed the wine jar and gulped down with his head back. Suemo also grabbed a wine jar and copied Lan Tianlong to drink in large mouthfuls. When the wine entered his throat, it turned to a wave of heat that rolled through his chest. He did not know what this wine was made from. Inside Suemo's body, it was like a ball of hot fire that moved restlessly. The sun crystal seed in Suemo's body seemed to be stimulated and furiously spun. Suemo felt the burning ball of flame in his chest grow and his throat burned with thirst. He wanted to drink more. Uncontrollably, he raised the wine jar and poured into his mouth. The moment it entered his throat, the liquid was a wave of coolness, but immediately afterward the ball of fire in his body seemed to grow hotter. Lan Rong looked helplessly at the duo. In the past, it had only been Lan Tianlong that would drink like this, and he had cleaned up the messes countless times. Today, it was two drunkards. The two were drinking so recklessly like this, and he could only shake his head. Shiyui's Granny Meng Ghost Wine was famous as one of the strongest spirits in the Mo world. Looking at the surroundings, everyone only sipped it. Only the two dumbasses in front of him were drinking so violently. Lan Rong knew what his brother was like. But he had not expected that Xiao Mo Gu, who did not look very ferocious, to be so vicious when he drank. As expected, one could not judge a book by its cover. Lan Rong shook his head. "Brother Tianlong, after so many years you are still like this?" A clear voice came. Lan Rong's face instantly cooled. Without needing to look, he knew who it was. He couldn't help but smile coldly. "Compared to Brother Shen, my brother has enough to be proud of. I heard that last night, under the eyes of everyone, Brother Shen was tricked by a very ugly and very gentle brother. Princess Xia probably saw it. I'm very curious. What did Princess Xia think about it all?" Lan Rong's retaliation directly hit Shen Ye's weak point. What had occurred last night was a great humiliation for Xinyu. Everyone had watched him, and he had allowed the other to escape. This was like using his face to sweep the floor. Lan Rong did not hesitate in poking at his wound. A hint of murderousness flashed through Xinyu's eyes. Xinyu smiled coldly. Little brother Lan Rong's tongue is still as fast and sharp as in the past. But our brother Lan's moves half as quick. Xinyu suddenly increased his volume. It is such a good occasion today, how can there be no battle to arouse the spirits? What do you think, little brother Lan Rong, should we go up on stage and have a round? The noisy hall instantly quieted. Everyone looked over, many of the people had interested expressions on their faces. The Shen family had always been at odds with the Lan family. How could Xinyu miss a chance to damage the other's reputation? Lan Rong's expression changed slightly. If he showed weakness in public, his and the Lan family's reputation would be damaged. But Lan Rong knew his own abilities. His strength was not bad, but compared to Xinyu, he was much weaker. Even Lan Tianlong was slightly weaker than Xinyu. But at this time, he could not retreat. Just as he was going to reply, an indistinct voice came from beside him, "Hey, you are that very ugly and very gentle." It was Sui Mo that spoke. He swayed as he stood up. His mind was a complete mess at this point, but he felt that Xinyu seemed slightly familiar, yet being drunk he did not know why he felt displeasure when he saw this person. Just now, he felt that the phrase, very ugly and very gentle, sounded familiar. Dizzy from the drinks, Sui Mo pushed the label onto someone else. He completely forgot the connection he had to the matter. The hall that had become completely silent because Xinyu had challenged Lan Rong, now roared with laughter. The ones seated were either noble or wealthy and all had methods of gathering intelligence. The phrase, very ugly and very gentle, from last night had spread through all of Great Peace City. So when they heard Sui Mo ask Xinyu this, they laughed without exception. Xinyu's expression became the color of a beet. Sui Mo was exposing his scars in public. The young masters urged on and whistled. They were happy to see anything that made Xinyu look bad. Shouts came from the crowd, "Wow, so ugly, so gentle. So ugly. So gentle." When had Xinyu been embarrassed like this? His face turned from red to black, viciousness appearing in his brows. Light flashed through his eyes and his tone was icy. "Sir is?" Still in a daze, when Sui Mo heard that the other did not recognize him, he instantly became discontent as he said loudly, "You don't even know me? You still want to live in Great Peace City?" He pulled over Lan Rong and then muttered. "Didn't you say that the drinking party this time is supposed to be very high-end? How can a person like him come in?" Roars of laughter rose up again. Sui Mo seemed extremely charming at this time. Many beautiful matrons covered their mouths and laughed. The daring ones coquettishly ogled Sui Mo's body. The people of Great Peace City recognized Sui Mo because shifting stars sand was too shocking of an event. Seeing Xinyu's almost twisted face, Lan Rong had never found a person so charming before. He felt very good and so happy he almost shouted. "Brother, drink a bit more." He wanted to shove another jar of wine in Sui Mo's hand. At this time, Xinyu actually calmed down. He knew that he had been embarrassed greatly today, but as long as these idiotic people saw his strength, they would naturally close their mouths and have fearful gazes again. What was something that could cause people to submit other than power? All of the mockery, in front of power, was so insignificant. With a light blow, it would disappear like bubbles. A smile came back onto his face. This one is ignorant and really does not know. Please teach me. The smile on Lan Rong's face disappeared. He understood Xinyu very well. Every time Xinyu had this expression, it meant that he really felt murderousness. He would use any trick to kill the other. Xiao Mo Gu. He turned and looked worriedly at Xiao Mo Gu. Zhuo Mo's brow rose as he said humorously, "Teach?" He reached out his right hand with the palm up and open. Lan Rong's expression was puzzled. What did this hand gesture mean? Shen Yu also did not understand. He was unaffected and said, "This is. You aren't just ugly, you are also stupid." The drunkenness rising, Zhuo Mo said impatiently, "Do you understand the rules of the word? If you ask for a lesson, don't you need to pay?" The hall was completely silent. Everyone present, including Lan Rong, was gaping. They were so shocked by Zhuo Mo's unique move they were speechless. 50 mo bei, thank you. Shen Yu gaped with wide eyes in dumbstruckness. When he reacted, his face became flushed red again. Searching for a few moments, he could not produce anything. Shen Yu had such high status, when had he ever needed to personally bring Mo Bei along to attend a banquet? If little Mo Gu had to identify a type of person he did not like, it would definitely be someone that did not have Mo Bei. This meant that he could not squeeze anything out of the other. What was more hateful than this? Doesn't even have 50 Mo Bei. Zhuo Mo muttered. He looked with a pair of drunken eyes at Shen Yu which were filled with disdain. Many people's expression became strange. Zhuo Mo's voice was not loud but those seated all had great hearing. They all heard it clearly. "I will pay for him." A seductive and lazy voice came. Before Zhuo Mo finished his comment, a string of Mo Bei landed on Zhuo Mo's hand. Seeing who it was, Shen Ye's expression changed and he was moved by Princess Xia's actions. Zhuo Mo instantly smiled. He tossed the string and then shoved it at Lan Rong. "Remember to buy more of this wine for me." Finishing, he completely ignored Lan Rong's awkward expression. He turned and said seriously to Shen Yu, "I will only say it once, do not forget it, I am called Xiao Mo Gu." A strange look flashed through Princess Xia's eyes and Shen Yu smiled. Seeing Shen Ye's smile, Zhuo Mo also smiled. Chapter 603, Granny Meng Ghost Wine. Obtaining this match had taken no effort. This was the first thought that Shen Yu had. On the road here, he had listened to Princess Xia and the others continuously praise Xiao Mo Gu and had long placed him on the list of people he had to stomp down. He had not expected this drunkard to be Xiao Mo Gu. Were the heavens looking favorably upon him? Shen Yu felt as though his blood was boiling. Due to being too excited, his body actually shook slightly. Under the eyes of the public, in front of Princess Xia, the exhilaration of crushing a genius that could cause the shifting star stand. Shen Ye's smile was like a predator that had found its prey. He licked his lips, the light deep in his eyes filled with murderousness, bloodthirst, savagery and anticipation. It made him excited just thinking about it. "So you are Xiao Mo Gu, do you dare to go up and spar?" He forcibly suppressed the excitement and urge to fight inside. Like an experienced hunter, he tossed out his lure that had been prepared long before. Zhuo Mo's mind was a blur. The drunkenness roiled in his chest like a ball of fire. This ball of fire seemed to want to combust in his body. He felt as though each muscle was burning, like firewood soaked in oil. There seemed to be several fireballs on his chest and back. So hot. So thirsty. Shen Ye's figure seemed to be both near and far, clear one moment and blurry the next. Zhuo Mo's eyes were drunken and his mind unfocused. This wine, really was strong. Shen Yu, you really do not have face. You are bullying Xiao Mo Gu while he is drunk. What? You want to play? This one will accompany you. Lan Rong said coldly. Today, Xiao Mo Gu had humiliated Shen Yu. If the two fought, Xiao Mo Gu definitely would not end up well. As for himself, while it would be slightly embarrassing, but unless the Shen family wanted to start an open feud with the Lan family, Shen Yu would not dare to take his life. So at this time, Lan Rong unhesitatingly stood up. A strange smile floated on Shen Ye's face. Lan Rong, don't think too highly of yourself. This is Xiao Mo guess matter, when was it your turn to decide? He then shouted, Xiao Mo Gu, do you dare? Shen Ye's eyes were dark and cold. People who were drunk were the most impulsive and easiest to provoke. He did not believe that Xiao Mo Gu would be unaffected at this time. In a daze, Zhuo Mo suddenly heard a little Mo Gu, do you dare? A thread of clarity suddenly returned among the burning fire. So thirsty. So hot. He suddenly raised the wine jar in his hand and gulped down, uncaring of the wine that spilled down his neck. The cool feeling of the wine sliding across his skin caused him to feel a thread of pleasure. In one go, he drank the remaining wine. Then he glared at Shen Yu and smashed the wine jar onto the ground. When Shen Yu saw Zhuo Mo drink furiously out of the wine jar, he was overjoyed inside. When he saw Zhuo Mo finish all the remaining wine in one go and stare hatefully at him, he wanted to laugh. He had seen drunkards before. Those that drank would all look like this. They would be clumsy in tongue and move roughly. Such a group of idiots. He had succeeded. As expected, he heard Zhuo Mo smash the wine jar onto the ground. A shout rang through the entire hall. What are we betting? Shen Ye's expression froze on his face. This was not the same as he had imagined. He reflexively asked, what do you mean betting? The surroundings became silent again. Their thinking was just like Shen Yu. They had all thought that Zhuo Mo would say, dare. I dare. Who knew that Zhuo Mo had skipped that and moved on to the gamble? Those with slow responses did not manage to react. Country bumpkin. Zhuo Mo's eyes were filled with disdain. His speech was slurred and drunken. He really looked down at Shen Yu now. No wonder he didn't even have 50 mo bei. He used the last thread of kindness he had and advised Shen Yu, without any benefit, it is very stupid to fight. Country bumpkin. Tendons bulged in Shen Ye's forehead. He had never been scorned like this by someone right to his face. He saw Lan Rong forcing back a smile out of the corner of his eye. The other was almost unable to hold it, and his expression was twisted strangely. He could imagine the expressions of the people behind him that were watching. Princess Xia. I will tolerate. Xiao Mo Gu already entered his trap. If he added some more pressure, Xiao Mo Gu would not be able to escape death today. What do you want? Shen Yu suppressed the anger inside and asked, stopping after each word. Zhuo Mo could still see Princess Xia's face. He remembered that he needed to find this woman for a matter. But what matter was it? He couldn't remember. He hit his head. Fine, it was fine if he did not remember, but he did have something to ask her about. He pointed at Princess Xia and said, I want her. When the 3 words came out, the entire hall was so silent that the sound of a needle dropping to the ground could be heard. Everyone was shocked by these 3 words. Their mouths gaped and their faces were full of disbelief. Who dared to say in front of Princess Xia that he wanted her? Heavens! This was too impolite. Too impolite. The young masters that were in love with Princess Xia shifted. Someone swore, you dare. You dare to be so impolite to Princess Xia, are you tired of living? Don't lose your senses after drinking a few mouthfuls of wine. Hearing the enraged words behind his back, Shen Yu had an increasingly smug expression. He spread his hands and acted apologetic. Zhuo Mo finally realized. So she isn't your woman. No wonder, you do not even have 50 mo bei to put down as a starting bet. Don't bully me for being drunk, you think that I am as stupid as you, so stupid. Shen Yu felt his head swell up. He had not expected the development of the matter to progress outside conventional pathways. Also, the anger inside could not be suppressed after Zhuo Mo kept on saying he was so stupid. An amused look flashed through Princess Xia's eyes. She suddenly spoke, if you win, I will promise to accompany you for one day." When the words came out, the people descended into noise. Shen Yu was overjoyed. It seemed that Princess Ya felt something for him. Otherwise, she would not be lending a helping hand twice in succession. He decided inside, he would not fail Princess Ya's good intentions. Zhuemo could not remember what matter he had to find Princess Ya about. He just felt that his body was intensely burning. His eyes were red and seemed to be glimmering with blood. Shen Yu wanted to crush Zhuemo into powder immediately. He asked in a murderous voice, "Are you satisfied now?" Zhuemo felt as though his entire body was filled with flames and a strong viciousness filled his body. "Come." His voice seemed to come through the thick fire and carried an indescribable restlessness. Shen Yu did not waste words. To the challenge area. As this was the residence of the Great Peace City Master, there naturally was a stadium. Though it was not as large as the stadium outside the palace, the genji placed on it were not lacking. One was the genius Shen Yu, who had been famous for many years and was considered the Shen family's most outstanding genius in the last 200 years. The other was Xiao Mo, who had come out of nowhere, caused the shifting star sands, and placed on the Great Peace Mo ranking. Adding on Princess Ya's tempting prize, this fight attracted the attention of everyone at the party. "Should we stop them?" a servant asked. Shi Yue smiled and waved his hand. "No need, just watch, it is rare to have such a heated atmosphere." Because Shi Yue never cultivated a Mo spell, his face already seemed old. His hair was gray and white and it hung down naturally. The wrinkles on his face were faint but clear. He smiled from beginning to end as though everything was under his control. What was most attractive about him was his eyes that flashed with an intelligent and wise light. It would cause people to unconsciously submit. Suddenly, a black-robed male, and a dark shadow appeared next to Shi Yue. They sat down without any courtesy and then started to eat and drink. The one in the black robe was Yu Shuang and the dark shadow was Chang Yuanhao. "Who does city master favor?" the black-robed male asked Shi Yue. Shi Yue asked softly, "What about you?" Yu Shuang thought and then responded, "Shen Yu, the Peacock King Mo bloodline of the Shen family has its unique aspects. Shen Yu has also been in general level for a long time and has the Peacock King Mo physique. After so many years, he should have progressed." Shi Yue turned to look at Chang Yuanhao in the shadow. Chang Yuanhao said, "Xiao Mo Gu." Yu Shuang was slightly shocked. "You actually favor Xiao Mo Gu? Why?" Intuition. Chang Yuanhao did not stop. The food on the table disappeared at a visible rate into the dark shadow. "You are not a woman," Yu Shuang said, unconvinced. However, he thought inside, this good friend of his did not speak much but he was usually right. Shi Yue smiled slightly and said, "Let's watch, I feel great anticipation about the power of the Granny Meng Ghost Wine." Granny Meng Ghost Wine. Yu Shuang and the dark shadow paused simultaneously. Yu Shuang asked in a stammer, "How much has he drank?" Shi Yue had his usual smile. 16 jars. Yu Shuang gaped, his expression frozen on his face as though he had seen a ghost. In the corner, Lan Tianlong, who had drunk 3 jars of Granny Meng Ghost Wine, was completely drunk. Zhuemo felt his entire body was burning and he was inside a ball of fire. Even the things he saw seemed to twist in the waves of heat. It really was strong. That country bumpkin. Zhuemo looked with drunken eyes at Shen Yu. His body was filled with hot fire that was on the verge of overflowing. Within this terrifying fire, Zhuemo felt a thread of mad exhilaration. There seemed to be something that was being dissolved by the flames and flowed out of the fire. This thing flowed into his head. However, his consciousness was almost completely clouded now. He wanted to examine and see what those things were but he could not seem to find the energy. The murderousness on Shen Ye's face was undisguised now. When they were on the battlefield, the power of life and death would be on his hands. He didn't just have to win, he had to win beautifully. Only so, would he leave a deeper impression on Princess Xiao. He slowly walked towards Sui Mo, step by step, unhurried, and composed. The five-colored Mo matrix on his body was like feathers that appeared and grew. When the crown of the peacock appeared on his forehead, his eyes were completely icy. Sui Mo suddenly raised his head. His blood-filled eyes were like that of a wild beast that flashed with a bloodthirsty light. He raised his right hand. Chapter 604, Peacock Icebot Domain. As Sui Mo raised his right hand, the vast fire inside his body flowed like lava. Any kind of collision of the flows of energy would create bright sparks. A strong pain burned every one of Sui Mo's nerves. The world twisted in his vision as though there were waves of heat. Shen Ye's body became unstable. His position looked extremely strange. His right hand was raised, his body leaning slightly forward as though he was preparing to run. He grinned, raised his right leg and then suddenly stomped on the ground. Like an arrow leaving the bow, he charged. His body was off balance as he was leaning forward to the point that he was almost parallel to the ground. His two legs rapidly alternating as he accelerated. Bang! On the seventh step, with a sound like that of a whip, a white spherical ball of air suddenly exploded around him. Sonic boom. Sui Mo's body suddenly became blurry. Other than the screams of some females, many in the audience hardly reacted as they had seen Sui Mo's fight with Miao Jun. They all knew that Sui Mo could create a sonic boom, and the sonic boom was not a powerful move. It was only rare because it required a high degree of balance in all aspects. In reality, many experts were shaking their heads inside. Using such an ordinary and uncreative attacking method was not enough against Shen Yu. Sui Mo did not know the thoughts of the audience. He only felt that his body was burning fiercely, and he was going to melt. His legs moved even more quickly as though he wanted to vent the rampaging flood inside his body. With every step, he used all of his strength. His mind dazed, what was left was only his fighting instincts. At this time, another clear bang sounded out. Pia! A spherical ball of white mist suddenly exploded around Sui Mo's body. This was the 12th step. There were 5 steps between the 2 spherical balls of mist. Bam bam bam, many chairs fell to the floor. Many people who had been shaking their heads suddenly stood up with shocked expressions. A second sonic boom. It was a double sonic boom. Achieving a sonic boom was very rare already, but a double sonic boom was so rare that it was the first time many people were seeing it. The first sonic boom meant that the body had broken free of the restraint of the air. The second sonic boom came from the body vibrating at such a rapid rate that they caused an implosion of the air around them. A double sonic boom would form an area of empty space around the person's body. All movements would be at their fastest and not face any resistance. Other than needing the balance of their entire body to create a sonic boom, it required a great power in the body in order to form the second. In other words, every one of Sui Mo's muscles were quivering at an imperceptible rate. So hot. Within the crimson eyes, the scenery that passed seemed to slow down. He could not hear the noise from the outside. The rampaging fire seemed to roar inside and spread across his body. He was like a wounded wild beast sprinting at full strength. The MO matrix of the 10-crow celestial apparatus was extremely bright at this moment. The 3 suns on his back and the sun at his chest were furiously absorbing the hot fire inside his body. But the vast fire seemed to be an endless ocean. Even if the 4 suns were like 4 enormous whirlpools and absorbed the hot fire, the raging fire did not lessen. The sun crystal seed spun even faster. The entire sea of fire started to become restless, as it sensed a threat from the spinning sun crystal seed. Boom! The restlessness of the fire sea spread to every bone of Sui Mo's body, every muscle fiber. They vibrated simultaneously. Suddenly, something indistinct seemed to float out in his mind. Zhuo Mo's eyes widened suddenly like a wild beast. Shen Yu looked coldly at Xiao Mo Gu that was charging at him. He was surprised at the double sonic boom but was only surprised. For general level, the ultimate technique was domain. With the peacock crown materialized on his forehead, he looked like a legendary king whose authority looked down on the world. The Peacock King Mo bloodline was noble, just like how the five-colored Mo matrix on his body was grandiose and brilliant. At this time, Shen Ye's eyes were cold and dignified. His already handsome face now seemed like a Mo god from the legends. The five-colored feathers that were extremely beautiful were like a cape or a five-colored waterfall that fell from his shoulders onto the ground. He stood there silently. His presence was so noble that people could not move their gazes away. All the females in the room could not stop themselves from staring at the prince like Shen Yu. Even Princess Xia showed a thread of dazedness. However, she quickly regained her mental clarity and was very shocked. Shen Yu had always tried to show off in front of her, but he had never used all his ability like he was today. Shen Yu looked coldly at Zhuo Mo that was rushing frantically at him and elegantly raised his right hand. The bright five-colored light was like paint. With him as the center, the colors spread into the surroundings. In a moment, the entire battlefield turned into a multicolored world. Domain. He actually reached domain. People seemed to see something that was impossible to believe. If Zhuo Mo's double sonic boom had shocked them, then Shen Ye's domain that he created with a wave of his hand made them suspect that something was wrong with their eyes. Even Chang Yuanhao and Yu Shuang had surprised expressions. It is a pity for Xiao Mo Gu. Shen Yu has cultivated a domain, the young people now really are. Yu Shuang shook his head emotionally. They had heard the reputation of the genius of Shen Yu a long time ago. People had to sigh and praise him for entering general level in his teens. But all the praise was so insignificant in front of the multicolored world in front of them. Domain. This was a line that separated the experts from the masses, and a dividing line for whether one could level up further. He was so young, yet he had crossed this benchmark. His future was unlimited and he had a great hope of entering martial level. Many people were adjusting their judgment of the Shen family. Lan Rong's face was ashen as he watched from outside the battlefield. Shen Yu had actually obtained domain. Xiao Mo Gu was in danger. There was no change of expression on Shen Ye's face, which was as cold and indifferent like the peacock crown that was on his forehead. Peacock Icebot domain. As the other seemed to come closer, Zhuo Mo suddenly felt the surroundings became difficult to move, as though he had entered a quagmire. Shen Yu seemed to grow distant in his vision. The distance between the two increased. In a blink, Shen Yu was 100 zhang away. He did not notice that dashes of circular marks like the eye spots on peacock feathers appeared on the ground. They were like strange eyes, or slowly spinning whirlpools. The sticky feeling caused Zhuo Mo to feel unusually uncomfortable. He was like a wild beast that had charged into a net and was instinctively thrashing about. At this time, something slid across his head and caused him to give a shocking roar. He was like a wounded beast. His body suddenly jumped up, and when he reached the apex, his body shook and became blurry. At the same time, a burning streak of fire pierced the ground from the sky. Zhuo Mo's fist punched out, causing a long flickering fist of fire to smash into a peacock eye spot on the ground. Boom! The ground shook and the eyes instantly shattered into countless flows of color. But quickly, they flowed back together from all directions like water and reformed back into the eye spots. Shen Yu looked indifferently at Zhuo Mo and was not affected. This kind of damage was ineffective against his peacock eye spot domain. When Zhuo Mo's fist hit the ground, the sea of fire inside his body suddenly roared. Already savage, Zhuo Mo felt very good. He did not feel the resistance that came from striking with his fist. He did not hesitate and lifted his fist again. As though he was mad, he punched again and again. Boom boom boom. The ground continued to tremble, the ice spots shattering under the punches and then reforming. Suemo did not seem to realize it. He was immersed in an indescribable feeling of pleasure. With every punch, the fire inside seemed to vent into the ground from his body. Everything in his body seemed to be burning furiously. In the stands, Yu Shuang could not stop himself. This guy really is drunk. 16 jars of ghost wine. Chang Yuanhao was a few words, but the meaning did not need to be said. This guy is a freak as well. He drank 16 jars of Granny Meng ghost wine and can still fight. How come I wasn't this strong when I was young? Yu Shuang sighed. He will give us a surprise. Shen Yui suddenly laughed lightly. Yu Shuang and Chang Yuanhao stilled simultaneously. Shi Yui, who had always been indifferent, seemed to have eyes which were now flashing with another kind of light as he stared at Xiao Mo Gu. The two exchanged a look and could see the shock in each other's eyes. City Master never spoke without basis. Did this little guy really have something special? Both felt some anticipation. Their gazes moved towards the battlefield, landing on Xiao Mo Gu, who was punching the ground in rapid succession. Chang Yuanhao seemed to have noticed something. Yu Shuang couldn't help but give a slight sound of surprise. Suemo furiously punched the ground. He seemed to not know exhaustion, and he used full power in every punch. The ground of the battlefield continued to tremble, and even the guests in the stands could feel it. He completely forgot about Shinyu. In his eyes, there were only the peacock eye spots that repeatedly shattered and reformed. The spinning of the sun crystal seed inside his body reached a shocking rate. It gave off threads of magnetism, and even the 3 suns on his back were slowly pulling at the rampaging sea of fire inside Zuomo's body. The thing that appeared in Zuomo's mind slowly became clear. Zuomo, who had lost the ability to think a long time ago, did not think at all. He instinctively changed according to what the thing in his mind said. He punched again and again. But without knowing it, each punch had started to vary in minute changes. The speed that Suemo punched was very quick. It was a storm that was so rapid, people could not catch it. The tiny changes accumulated under this shocking speed. In a blink, people detected the change in his punches. Chapter 605, Peacock King Plume. Shinyu gazed indifferently at Suemo. There wasn't any hint of change in his expression. The peacock eyespot domain was full of variations, and using brute force against it would be of no use at all. Smug satisfaction flashed through his indifferent eyes. Everything within the peacock eyespot domain was within his grasp. He was like a Mo god of the ancient era, standing on top of the highest of peaks and looking at his enemies who were like minuscule ants beneath him. This feeling was so intoxicating. Watching as his opponent smashed the ground like an idiot, a hint of scorn flashed at Shen Ye's lips. How about adding to the fire? A mocking smile hung upon Shen Ye's lips. He raised his right hand again. Suddenly, his gaze landed on Zuomo's right fist, and his smile froze. What was that? Zuomo felt as though a sea of fire was roaring inside of him. The entire sea of fire was being agitated and pulled upon. The little sun crystal seed and the other 3 suns were like an invisible hand that pulled on the entire sea of fire. The blurry scenes that floated in his mind were like silent murmurs that urged Zuomo on. Savagery and restlessness caused Zuomo to be unhesitating with his attacks. He punched down with his right hand like the scene in his mind. Boom! A spark formed between his fist and the ground before floating in the air. None noticed this spark, which was the size of a pin. Even Zuomo did not notice. The sea of fire that was shifting inside his body was like a heavy block of wood being hoisted into the air. Every time he punched, the wood would fall down. The feeling was pleasurable and free. It was as though he could smash through anything. One punch after another. Dots of sparks flew from his fist and floated in the air. No matter how the waves of air moved, they seemed to be suspended motionlessly in the air. The sparks increased in number, and soon everyone noticed it. Still, Zhuo did not notice. The three suns on his back seemed to come alive and were revolving at a very slow rate. The golden lines that connected them changed as well. The fiery pillar smashed into Zhuo's right arm every time he punched and stopped when it reached his wrist. Zhuo did not know what this technique this was, but its name suddenly appeared in his mind. Sun Hammer. What was that? Zhuo was in an unclear state of mind, but he did not care and followed accordingly. A thread of Shen power exploded into sparks when it encountered the pillar of fire. Drunk, Zhuo felt that the power of this technique wasn't satisfying enough. He tried all he could to layer all kinds of power into his fist. Sky Glass Wave. Shen Power. Fire Fist of the First Heavenly Stem. Sun Hammer. Each punch was changing, becoming heavier. Boom. The ground shook. Boom. The trembling of the earth became even more evident. Soon after, all the tables and chairs started to rattle. The beautiful matrons on the stand screamed and they could feel the stands vibrating. No one paid attention to the screams. They all stared closely at the battlefield. They stopped breathing and didn't dare to blink. The trembling of the earth increased, and the plates on the table clinked. How heavy was Xiao Mo's fist? In order to guarantee that those outside the field were not affected, there had been layers of Jinji set around the battlefield. Yet the vibrations outside the field were so strong. People could not imagine just how powerful Xiao Mo's punches were. Such terrifying power. Yu Xuan murmured to himself. His expression changed slightly. This kind of brute force probably rivals those of the Iron Mountain Elephant clan. Shi Yui's gaze was deep and his tone slightly reminiscent. My master once said that people that could drink more than 10 jars of Granny Meng ghost wine were all special people. Special people? Chan Yuanhao instantly grasped the most important part of the sentence. My master did not explain what he meant. Shi Yui shook his head. I've never changed the recipe for this Granny Meng ghost wine. I also want to know what kind of person that my master would deem special is like. When he finished speaking, his tone carried a thread of anticipation and excitement. Chan Yuanhao was slightly shocked. The city master was usually composed and at ease, as though he was confident no matter the situation. It was the first time he saw such an expression on city master's face. Yu Xuan's gaze did not move away from the battlefield. Now it is time to see how far Shen Ye's Peacock Icebot domain has progressed and if he can withstand this. The three closed their mouths and gazed at the battlefield among the strong vibrations. Shen Ye's expression changed slightly. He seemed to be standing on the surface of a drum as someone continued to bang on it. With every beat, the ground trembled and the vibration increased in strength. The peacock icebots were still maintaining themselves on the ground, but Shen Yu could feel that they were being shaken and becoming unstable. What kind of freak was this person? He almost did not believe his own eyes. The other was able to express such power within the peacock icebot domain. This guy. Within the peacock icebot domain, every icebot was a whirlpool. He had just managed to cultivate the peacock icebot domain 2 years ago, but there were already 990 icebots in his peacock icebot domain. With 990 icebots moving simultaneously, someone weaker would have been torn apart immediately. Even if their body was strong, under the power of 990 peacock icebots, they would be like a fly that had flown into a spiderweb and would tangle themselves up even as they struggled. And finally, when the power entangled the enemy till they were unable to move, Shen Yu could easily go in for the kill under the other's terrified gaze. However, he looked hard at Zhuo. For some unknown reason, he felt a wave of coldness. He knew that Xiao Mo felt the effects of the peacock icebot domain. Xiao Mo Ge's body had visibly paused when he entered the Peacock Icebot domain. Yet, Xiao Mo Ge was raining down punches on the ground like he was mad. These actions that had seemed extremely idiotic to him, now caused Shen Yu to feel a sense of danger. He could not just sit and wait. Shen Yu seemed to wake up and viciousness flashed through his eyes. He decided to use that move. Wuxia Mo felt unprecedentedly good. The drunkenness rose to his mind and he was even more excited. The Peacock Icebot in front of him did not have the time to reform before it was smashed apart again. As Wuxia Mo's punches became heavier, the terrifying power spread out and produced wave after wave of rainbow ripples. So good. Wuxia Mo laughed madly into the air as he continued to punch. Punching at a rate that was so fast that robbed people of their breath, the strong fire shifted restlessly inside Wuxia Mo's body. He was like a person that was dying of thirst and furiously searching for water. What he was trying to find were ways that could get the power of his punches to be stronger. The more power that came from the collision of the fire, the more Shen power would come out of his body. The Mo matrix on Wuxia Mo's right fist was blindingly bright and drew out streaks of light in the air as he moved it rapidly. Now under the blinding streaks of light, no one could see the scattered sparks that floated in the air. At this time, the Peacock Icebots under his feet seemed to be attracted by a magnet and started to gather in one direction. With his eyes blurred in drunkenness, Wuxia Mo stopped moving and watched as the icebots moved past his foot. He slowly moved his head and looked in the direction the Peacock Icebots had disappeared into. The Peacock Icebots on the ground and in the air were gathering on Shen Yu's body. Shen Yu was completely transformed at this moment. Peacock feathers had crawled up his body and entered his Mo matrix. The peacock crown on Shen Yu's forehead seemed to come alive, the wings spreading. In a flash, its spread wings covered Shen Yu's head. It transformed into an exquisite helmet that only showed Shen Yu's eyes. A peacock feather that was about half a chi long appeared in Shen Yu's hand. Wuxia Mo stilled, remembering that he had made a bet with the person in front of him. But he could not remember what the bet was about. How could little Mo Ge lose a bet? Wuxia Mo swayed as he moved to face Shen Yu. No one dared to underestimate this drunken youth any longer. Every one of his punches seemed to land upon their minds. However, when Shen Yu's transformation was revealed, especially that five-colored peacock feather, exclamations rang out in the crowd. Peacock King Plume. Even Yu Shuang could not keep his composure from where he was in the stands. He suddenly stood up and stared hard at the battlefield with a stunned expression. This guy even managed to cultivate the Peacock King Plume. The Shen family really produced someone amazing. Peacock King Plume, the famed killing move of the Shen family, and one of the top killing moves even among the many prestigious families of Hundred Savage Realm. There were numerous foes in the history of the Shen family that had fallen to this move. The founder of the Shen family had used this move to kill 79 generals, astounding the world and then founding the Shen family. The Peacock King Plume was very powerful, but it was just as difficult to cultivate as it was strong. Even now, the number of those who had cultivated the Peacock King Plume in the Shen family lineage could be counted on one hand. Those that wanted to cultivate the Peacock King Plume had to have a deep understanding of the Peacock Icebot domain. The difficulty in achieving the Peacock Icebot domain was high to start with. There was just a handful of Shen family descendants that could comprehend the Peacock Icebot domain in each generation and even fewer among those that could comprehend the Peacock King Plume. So when Yu Shuang saw the peacock feather in Shen Yu's hand, the shock he felt could be imagined. Incomplete. Chang Yuan Hao suddenly spoke. It is enough, Yu Shuang sighed lightly. He is so young and able to cultivate the Peacock King Plume. That kind of talent is probably not any less than the founder of the Shen family. Chang Yuan Hao was silent. Yu Shuang was right. Shen Yu's talent was so high that it was shocking. He looked at the swaying and drunken youth. He felt pity inside. This youth was also talented, but he probably had not expected to encounter a genius of the century like Shen Yu. Such a pity. Feeling pity, Chang Yuanhao suddenly looked across Zuomo's feet and his gaze focused abruptly. That was. A single ball of sparks floated silently next to Zuomo's feet. Chapter 606, Reverse Stellar Revolution. A hint of fear flashed through Shen Ye's eyes as he stared at his opponent. For some reason, the peacock king plume in his hand was not as reassuring to him as he had expected. The person standing in front of him was struggling with his domain and didn't have the presence of an expert. He was a flailing drunkard that could be found on any street corner. But this drunkard caused him to feel a hint of fear. He didn't know why. Was it because those punches just now that had been unusually powerful? Or was it Xiao Mo's mad laughter? Shen Ye's gaze quickly cleared up. The strong power that came from the peacock king plume in his hand completely suppressed the threat of terror. He laughed lightly. The fear had come without any reason. It should be the other that felt fear. Just now, Xiao Mo's display should have shocked everyone. However, wasn't that what he wanted? If such a powerful opponent fell under his peacock king plume, it would be a great chapter in his legend. This was a person that could cause the shifting star sands. Let's end it, everything finish. Shen Yu thought. His eyes flashed with a cold light as he raised his right hand. The peacock king plume turned into a multicolored light that shot at Xiao Mo. An expression of pain appeared on Zuomo's face. After the repeated punches, the fire inside his body was like a heavy weight. Each heavy punch caused the fire inside his body to shudder. The fire was suppressed by the sun crystal seed and the power of the 10-crow celestial apparatus, yet in reality, it was still extremely restless. He did not feel it when he was punching, but after he stopped, the ball of fire expanded into countless streams that entered Zuomo's limbs and organs. In this instant, Zuomo felt his head ring. His already muddled mind went blank. Almost at the same time, the three suns that had been slowly revolving on his back stopped. A light moved from the Sun Mo matrix at the center of his chest along the golden lines and quickly through the three suns on his back. The four suns suddenly gave off a blinding light. The ball of sparks next to Zuomo's feet suddenly lit up. These sparks were like stars. They suddenly became attracted to Zuomo's right hand. Hiss. It was an extremely light sound. In a blink, the Sun Mo matrix on Zuomo's right palm abruptly gave off a blinding light. The fifth sun of the 10-crow celestial apparatus moved. Boom! This fifth sun that wasn't any different than the other four activated suns, was causing a string of unexpected occurrences. Its position was too distinct. Zuomo's right hand was where the power whirlpool was contained by the 10,000-layer iron Kaori Mo matrix. A burst of savage power furiously followed towards the sun on Zuomo's right palm. In a blink, Zuomo's Sun Mo matrix almost burst as it restrained the flows of power which contained a significant amount of Shen power. It suddenly dimmed and a presence that was divergent to the other suns appeared on Zuomo's right hand. Many sparks and dots appeared next to this sun script like the marks of the stars. The cloud of sparks began to circle around his hands and spin endlessly like a tiny stream of red stars. The red light suddenly spread outwards from under Zuomo and fought back against the darkness of Shen Ye's domain. Domain! An exclamation rang out among the crowd. This exclamation caused Zuomo's mind to shudder. The drunkenness that accompanied the ball of fire seemed to have retreated, and his vision suddenly cleared. Consequently, he saw a streak of 5-colored light shooting at him. In this moment, the feeling of extreme danger caused the hairs on his body to stand on end. Without even thinking, he raised his right hand. The handful of sparks that shrouded his palm shot at the streak of light. Shi Yue suddenly stood up. He looked at the handful of sparks with an excited expression. At this time, no one was paying attention to him. Everyone was looking closely at the battlefield. They all had a feeling that after this round of attacks, someone would definitely fall. The speed of the sparks was not fast, and in front of the lightning-fast Peacock King Plume, it was like a turtle. The Peacock King Plume shot into the cloud of sparks. And a stunning scene occurred. The moment the unstoppable Peacock King Plume came into contact with the sparks, it slowed down. When it was halfway into the sparks, it was as slow as a snail. Hiss! A wisp of fire suddenly appeared at the tip of the Peacock King Plume. The fire quickly spread along the Peacock King Plume. Whoosh! In a blink, the Peacock King Plume turned into a ball of ash and disappeared. Just at the same moment the first wisp of fire appeared on the Peacock King Plume, Shen Yes's eyes suddenly widened. He was stunned and motionless as though he had been struck by lightning. No one noticed a wisp of fire appear from under his feet and climb onto his feet. When Shen Yu noticed this wisp of fire, it was too late. The wisp suddenly grew and engulfed him in a flash. A horrid scream came from inside the flames. Ah! Ah! The hair-raising scream was suddenly choked off. The fire disappeared, and with a pop, there was nothing left in its place. The handful of sparks flew back and wrapped around Zhuo Mo's right hand. It gradually changed form, and in the blink of an eye, it appeared like a red bracelet around Zhuo Mo's wrist. The bracelet slowly spun around Zhuo Mo's right hand. If one looked closely, they would be able to distinguish a scene similar to a revolving red galaxy. The change came so fast. The entire situation had flipped on its head, and Shen Yu had been turned to ash. It was deathly silent. On the stands, Shi Yue had a disbelieving expression as he murmured to himself, "Reversed stellar revolution. Reversed stellar revolution." Chang Yuanhao froze when he heard this. A moment later, he slowly said, "Isn't he cultivating 10 Crow celestial apparatus? How can he obtain the reversed stellar revolution? Reversed stellar revolution? It isn't possible." Yu Xuan recovered from his shock. That is a killing move only those with star-type Mo physiques can achieve. I do not know how. Shi Yue quickly recovered his calmness and shook his head as he said, "Usually, those practicing the 10 Crow celestial apparatus cannot produce the reverse stellar revolution, but that is the reverse stellar revolution. His reverse stellar revolution is not the normal reverse stellar revolution. His stars are crimson red, and clearly have a fire attribute. This deviation should be related to the 10 Crow celestial apparatus that he cultivates. Impossible. Impossible." Yu Xuan's head shook like a rattledrum. How can someone with 10 Crow celestial apparatus cultivate the reverse stellar revolution? This is absurd. If it wasn't the city master that was in front of him, he would have scorned this comment. He also caused the shifting star sands, Chang Yuanhao suddenly said. Is it really the reversed stellar revolution? Yu Xuan stared at the crimson bracelet that was spinning in the air. It was unknown what he was thinking. Zhuo Mo regained clarity of mind, and the Jinji on the battlefield were turned off. Lan Rong excitedly jumped onto the field and threw an arm around Zhuo Mo's shoulder. He was so excited he almost couldn't speak coherently. "Brother, you are too powerful. Too powerful. You could even defeat the Peacock King Plume, you really are powerful." The surrounding people looked at Zhuo Mo with eyes filled with respect and fear. Any person that could defeat the Peacock King Plume was certainly deserving of this much. Zhuo Mo's face was puzzled. He was muddled about everything that had occurred when he was drunk. He was also slightly surprised at Lan Rong's closeness, but he did not push the other away. He asked cluelessly, "What happened? What happened here? Why am I unable to recall anything?" Lan Rong paused. He stared at Zhuo Mo for a long while. Seeing the other did not seem to be faking, he hurriedly narrated what had occurred just now. When he got to the dangerous and exciting parts, Lan Rong's arms gestured excitedly, and he was even more spirited than Zhuo Mo. Zhuo Mo was slightly shocked. He did not have any recollection at all. He had killed Shen Yu. The other had comprehended domain and had that Peacock King Plume. The other sounded very strong. He noticed the crimson bracelet on his wrist. Stopping, his mind inspected the bracelet, and then an indescribable feeling came to him. Hey hey hey! Are you dumb from excitement? Lan Rong saw Sui Mo was in a daze and hurriedly shouted. Sui Mo refocused. He knew that this was not the place to investigate, so he moved his mind back and looked around. Where is brother Tian Long? After this event, the three of them had gone through their own battles and the relationship had naturally changed. He is not as good a drinker as you, and is lying down over there in a corner. You are really ferocious. I've never seen anyone drink so much Granny Meng ghost wine, and you were even able to kill Shin Yu after that. Monster. Too freakish. Lan Rong shook his head as he reflected. Suddenly, a voice came from behind him. You won. 3 days later, I will find you and accompany you for a day. Sui Mo turned around. What entered his vision was a beautiful, seductive face that held a hint of indolence. That pair of eyes that seemed to be able to speak, examined Sui Mo curiously. Princess Xia. Sui Mo suddenly became nervous. Wasn't this his goal? He forcibly suppressed the impulse to act immediately and forced out a smile. Princess Xia is one to keep your word. Good. In 3 days, I will wait for Princess' arrival. Princess Xia smiled like a blooming flower. The surroundings seemed to brighten, and the sound of swallowing sounded in the surroundings. This dissipated much of the tension in the air. This is a reward you deserve. Finished speaking, Princess Xia turned and left. Such a beauty. Lan Rong looked at the back of Princess Xia and couldn't help but praise. However, he quickly had a mischievous smile on his face as he poked Sui Mo. Don't you feel it difficult to get through these 3 days? Sui Mo instantly didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Lan Rong was so lively it was almost overboard. However, this feeling was pretty good. He cooperated. 3 days, it will go by quickly. Lan Rong's tone suddenly turned serious and he said to Sui Mo in a low voice. You need to be careful. You might have defeated Shin Yu in a challenge which is lawful, so no one can openly protest. However, the Shin family placed great importance on Shin Yu and they will not let the matter end here. You have to be careful of them acting from the shadows. Sui Mo gratefully patted the other. Do not worry, I will be careful. After saving Xiao Gua and Li Yingfeng, he would quickly leave. Why would he stay in Great Peace City? But Lan Rong's reminder was sincere and Sui Mo could feel that. Suddenly, Sui Mo noticed several people walking towards them. Chapter 607, Special, Congratulations, Congratulations. Little brother Xiao Mo Go has stepped onto a new level with this battle, it really is an occasion to celebrate. The one that spoke was an old man that Sui Mo did not recognize. Sui Mo started to act humble when he heard Lan Rong bow and say, Lan Rong greets City Master. City Master. Sure Yui. The average-looking old man in Sui Mo's eyes instantly appeared to be more scholarly and deep. As expected, reputation made the person. Sui Mo felt great admiration towards people that were knowledgeable. This time, he was sincerely humble. City Master is too generous. Sure Yui smiled slightly, the faint wrinkles on his face clear to the eye. He looked at Lan Rong, and said warmly, You are a child of the Lan family, right? Not bad, you have some sense of honor. He turned his face to look at Sui Mo, introducing, Let me introduce these two to little brother. Chang Yuan Hao. A deep voice came from the shadows. This one is Yu Shuang. There was a slight smile on Yu Shuang's face. He bowed slightly and was warm and elegant. Without needing Lan Rong's introduction, he knew who these two were, first and second ranked on the Great Peace Mo ranking. Even though Xiao Mo Gu was full of confidence in himself, he was still shocked that these two personages had come. He returned a bow. I am Xiao Mo Gu. Please take care of me. At the side, Lan Rong was so excited he wasn't able to speak. He had attended the banquet of the city master many times, but it was the first time he met these three major personages. He felt as though he was dreaming to have been complimented by the city master. Shi Yue smiled slightly at Lan Rong. I'm sorry, we have come to find little brother Xiao to discuss some matters, please accept my apologies. Lan Rong seemed to wake up and immediately recovered. He said perceptively, this junior needs to go search for my brother. Goodbye, city master, goodbye, elders. He bowed respectfully and then retreated. Matters to discuss. Sui Mo was puzzled. It was the first time he met these three. What was there to discuss? Shi Yue did not clarify and motioned with a hand. Little brother, let us go over there. All right. The four of them entered a quiet room. When they entered the room, the noise from the outside instantly disappeared. Sui Mo noticed that there were Jinji set up in the room that could prevent eavesdroppers. I had not expected little brother to cultivate the reversed stellar revolution. The one who spoke first was Shi Yue. With those initial words, he attracted Sui Mo's attention. Reversed stellar revolution. This? Sui Mo raised his right wrist and the crimson bracelet that slowly spun around. Yes. Shi Yue glanced at Sui Mo, it appears that little brother does not know much about it. Yes, I do not understand, city master, please give me guidance, Sui Mo said obediently. Shi Yue smiled slightly. Reversed stellar revolution is a kind of killing move. However, killing moves of this kind are usually only obtained after those with star-type Mo physiques comprehend domain. Star-type Mo physiques. Sui Mo shook his head. I cultivate the 10-crow celestial apparatus. Shi Yue nodded and said, this is where little brother is special. It is true that little brother cultivates the 10-crow celestial apparatus that is ranked third among general rank physiques, and I also noticed that while the domain that little brother has comprehended has not fully taken form, it is already crimson red. If I am right, little brother has already reached the doorway to the 10-crow celestial domain. I've reached the doorway to domain. This time, it was Sui Mo's turn to be shocked. His mind shifted and the sun suddenly gave off a strange power. A crimson ring of light appeared under his feet. As expected, it is the 10-crow celestial domain. Yu Shang couldn't help but speak. As expected of the top-ranked domain among the general ranks. Even though it has not taken form, it is so strong and domineering. His voice was filled with admiration. Sui Mo felt increasingly puzzled. However, he knew that the other would explain the cause since the other had come to find him. As he expected, Shi Yue continued. It is the first time that I saw a situation like little brother's. Little brother, you clearly cultivate the 10-crow celestial apparatus Mo physique, and the domain you comprehend is the 10-crow celestial domain. How could you cultivate the reverse stellar revolution? Star-type Mo physique. What is the Mo physique you cultivated previously? Yu Shuang couldn't help but ask. Great day Mo physique, Sui Mo said. Second among colonel-level Mo physiques. Yu Shuang couldn't help himself. A strong Mo physique as well. And before that? Jade metal head. This time, even Shi Yue was slightly surprised. Yu Shuang looked at Sui Mo as though he was looking at a freak. Ranking 5th among captain level, are you from an ancient family? I don't know. Sui Mo gave an embarrassed grimace. I know nothing about my birth. Shi Yue and Yu Shuang both showed slight surprise but they quickly recovered. There is also another possible cause. Chang Yuanhao suddenly spoke from within the shadows. The three turned their gazes onto him. If one cultivates Yao arts to a certain level, they can also cultivate the reverse stellar revolution. Chang Yuanhao's words were a surprise to hear. Yu Shuang stilled and then slapped his forehead with his palm. How could I forget that? Stars and Yao, star power is one of the powers that Yao favor the most. There is probably more Yao than Mo that have the reversed stellar revolution. Oh, I remember, you seem to know Yao arts. A bit, Zhuo Mo said as he nodded his head. When he had fought against Miao Jun, he had used little Yao arts, so he openly admitted it. The gazes of the trio turned strange when they looked at him. It seems that this is the cause. Shi Yui nodded and said, there have been those in the past that cultivate Mo and Yao together, but I haven't ever heard of anyone that cultivates reverse stellar revolution and the 10-crow celestial apparatus together. As expected of what my master said, people that can drink more than 10 jars of Granny Meng ghost wine are all special people. What is your Yao art domain? Yu Shuang asked curiously. Yao art domain? I do not have one. Zhuo Mo shook his head. You did not cultivate a Yao art domain, but you comprehended the killing move. This is too. Yu Shuang didn't know what to say. Shi Yui saw his deeply impacted state and comforted. If your 1,000 coil threads is complete, you can definitely break through to martial level. Yu Shuang rolled his eyes and said in a negative tone. 10-crow celestial domain is my bane. 10-crow celestial domain is everyone's bane. Shi Yui comforted skillfully. Look at Yuan Hao, he is even worse off than you are. He is completely subdued by it in every way. The shadow stilled when he heard this. Yu Shuang's expression turned from depressed to sunny. He clapped and said with a smile, ah. Yes, in any case, anyone else that comes to fight will be worse off. Zhuo Mo listened to Shi Yui and Yu Shuang's conversation. His heart jumped wildly. He was worried the other would decide to kill the threat in its infancy. Then it would be over for him. The two old Mo were not people that Xin Yu could compare to. Added that, even now, Zhuo Mo did not understand how he had defeated Xin Yu. Shi Yui saw Zhuo Mo's uneasiness and couldn't help but laugh. I can see that little brother doesn't have such intentions. You should reinforce this perception after just having a breakthrough. Little brother, at your leisure, let us gather in a few days. Hearing this, Zhuo Mo immediately fled as though he was being pardoned. After Zhuo Mo's figure left, the room became quiet again. His birth is not simple. The one that spoke first was actually Chang Yuan Hao. He's not bad. Yu Shuang said with a smile, not a bad boy, I hope that Princess Xia won't tempt him away. Shi Yui shook his head and said, little Xia will probably fail this time. Why? Such a young boy, it wouldn't be simple for him to resist the power of Princess Xia. Yu Shuang looked gossipy. How long has it been since 10-crow celestial apparatus appeared last? Shi Yui suddenly asked. Very long ago. Yu Shuang wasn't sure. Thinking about what Zhuo Mo had said just now, he couldn't help but gape. Jade Metal Head, Great Day, 10-crow celestial apparatus, this is the best evolution path. If this was made public, how many would be jealous? Even I am jealous hearing that. It is infuriating to compare myself to him. Shi Yui automatically ignored Yu Shuang's mutterings. He had a thoughtful expression. Is something wrong? Chang Yuan Hao suddenly spoke. Shi Yui slowly said, I am thinking about that specialness that my master talked about. I wonder if the specialness refers to this. Of course it refers to this. Yu Shuang's tone was certain. If this isn't what's special, then there isn't anything else that is special. This boy is definitely a freak among the freaks, the greatest freak of them all. Shi Yui said gravely, I have always persisted in making the Granny Meng ghost wine because of the words that my master said. In my memories, my master rarely used the word special to refer to anyone. Every word that my master said was carefully selected and had its own profound meaning. In these years, I have always pondered what the specialness that my master spoke of referred to. Shi Yue caused Yu Shuang to quiet down. For everyone in Great Peace City, Shi Ziming was like an all-powerful god. Since the time has not arrived, let us first observe, Yu Shuang said. Shi Yue nodded and the three sank into silence. Pooh, is this really the reversed stellar revolution? On the road back to the compound, Zhou Mo couldn't resist asking. It really is the reversed stellar revolution. Pu Yao's expression was slightly grave. However, your reverse stellar revolution is not the same as the normal reverse stellar revolution, you have Sun Shen power inside it. He then warned, you should spend some time now on practicing your Yao arts. Without a Yao art domain, you will not be able to express much of the power of the reverse stellar revolution. Wei slowly spoke, Zhou, you have just reached the doorway to the 10-crow celestial domain, you cannot let it lie. This is the first-ranked domain of the general level, it is not something that reversed stellar revolution can compare to. Hearing this, Pu Yao smirked coldly and said, you are ignorant. You really think that the 10-crow celestial domain is invincible? The reversed stellar revolution is full of variations and this one contains Shen power. The 10-crow celestial domain might not be a match. Wei was not angry and said with a smile, it cannot be called invincible, but it is not me that gave it the title of the top domain in general level. Zhou Mo looked at the duo that was arguing and said helplessly, don't you two find it very strange? I practiced the 10-crow celestial apparatus, but what developed was the reversed stellar revolution. Is it strange? Pu Yao asked in response. It's all right. Wei's expression was matter of fact. Zhou Mo was speechless. Chapter 608, Insider Information. Zhou Mo did not know what effects the events at this banquet had had on all of Great Peace City. When he returned home, he instantly settled down and started to ponder on his 10-crow celestial domain, and the reversed stellar revolution. Right now, 5 of 10 suns of his 10-crow celestial apparatus Mo physique had turned bright. In other words, it meant that half of the suns were lit up. Other than this, he had an unexpected gain in the second transformation of the 10-crow celestial apparatus, the Sun Hammer. However, what was most attractive to Zhou Mo was the 10-crow celestial domain, and the reversed stellar revolution. The 10-crow celestial domain was called the top domain of general level, and unparalleled in its dominance. If he could comprehend it, it meant that he would ascend to the top ranks of general level experts in one leap. However, he quickly discovered that it was not as simple as it seemed. Right now, he had just reached the doorway towards domain, and his own domain had not formed yet. There was still a long path to walk, but Zhou Mo now had a general notion of what a domain was. There was a profound power between the 5 suns. This kind of power formed a domain. These powers were like chaotic streams that had to be slowly organized. When they were better organized and perfected, the domain would also be perfected. This was something that would take time and there were no shortcuts to take. What had surprised Zhou Mo the most was the reversed stellar revolution. After he had returned home and examined it in detail, he found the parts of it that were sparks of fire were made from Shen power. Their structure was unique and complex. Zhou Mo wanted to study the structure, but when he reached out with his mind, he felt dizzy. He immediately understood that this was out of his reach at the moment. Zhou Mo understood that the reason the sparks were powerful was not because they were the reverse stellar revolution but because they contained Shen power. This seemed more like a method of channeling Shen power. He understood little about Shen power. He thought about asking Tsing Lian Air but then gave up. As to the reverse stellar revolution, Zhou Mo had thrown it to the back of his mind. When would he have the time to cultivate a Yao art domain? In any case, he did not have the time now. So Zhou Mo focused on organizing his newly formed 10-crow celestial domain under Pu Yao's icy smile. Then he thought about how he could inquire about Xiaoguo and Liang Feng with Princess Xia when he met with her in 3 days. For some reason, that woman gave him a feeling she was not an easy one to deal with. What do you think of Xiao Mo Gu? Princess Xian suddenly asked. His power is very strange. The sound of the heavy armored guard came from inside the armor. Very strange. Princess Xian did not understand. The heavy armor guard treasured his words as though they were gold. Princess Sin's delicate brow furrowed, but even in irritation, Princess Xian was dignified. Her finger unconsciously tapped the tabletop. In that case, he is a very good choice. The heavy armor guard was silent. A moment later, Princess Xian made a decision. Come in. A servant pushed open the door and entered. Princess. Send someone to deliver an invitation to Mr. Xiao Mo Gu to attend an evening banquet. The time will be in 4 days, Princess Xian said lightly. Yes. The servant acknowledged and left. Princess Xian suddenly smiled. A Xia might have some objections about me now. The heavy armor guard was silent. Princess Sin's mind wandered as she gazed out of the window. Grandpa Zhu, are we inviting Xiao Mo Gu? Princess Wan asked curiously with wide eyes. Yes. Zhu Ku smiled slightly. His future is limitless, it would be a pity to give up on a talent like this. Also. He suddenly stopped speaking. Oh. Princess Wan nodded, but not in full understanding. She asked with a tilted head, then what are we inviting him over to do? Just to eat a meal, Zhu Ku said with a smile. Will elder sister Xia blame us? Princess Wan said anxiously. Zhu Ku said with a smile, your elder sister Xia is a very strong person. However, her biggest mistake this time is aiming for too much. Aiming? What is elder sister Xia aiming for? Princess Wan asked curiously. Princess will know when it is time. Zhu Ku put down the pen in his hand. After closely reading over the invitation, he made a satisfied expression. He handed the invitation to a servant that had been waiting at the side as he penned the letter. The servant immediately left upon receiving the invitation. Adhering to his normal routine, Zhua Mo went to Luo Li Shixiang's room. Luo Li Shixiang did not have any signs of energy, but his body had not become rigid as was usual for death and was soft as was usual. Zhua Mo's worries eased slightly. No one had cultivated the life-death lock before, and he had been worried. If it wasn't that Luo Li Shixiang had been seeking death, he never would have taken it out. A Guishan power was increasing rapidly, but what made him happy was that, while the increase in Shen power was astounding, the light in a Gui's eyes seemed to be increasing similarly. Her eyes were more lively than in the past, and she had more responses. This made Zhua Mo very happy, even happier than when he had the breakthrough. But when he received the 2 invitations, he was stunned where he stood. Did you hear? Princess Xian and Princess Wan could not resist. They each sent an invitation to Xiao Mo Gu at the same time. TSK, this time, Xiao Mo Gu has something to posture about. 3 princesses extending invitations at the same time, how long has it been since this occurred? Ha, Princess Xian and Princess Wan are not stupid. It would be strange if they did not try to recruit such a powerful person. Also, the matter of the Great Peace Treasure Pavilion has made such a ruckus, one more expert is one more bit of power. Where did this Xiao Mo Gu really come from? The sounds on the street all fell into Nanmen Shue's ears. Nanmen Shue had an arm around a beautiful woman as he shook his head and smiled. This really disrupts one's dreams. Please. Right now, the entire city is crazy. The male opposite Nanmen Shue also had a displeased expression. He then smiled strangely and said, in the past, even Qi Jiaoyu did not get this kind of attention. Hearing the name Qi Jiaoyu, Nanmen Shue glanced at the other. Do you not want me to have a good day today? The other laughed. I just think that you have sunk and do not have any spirit. I find it strange, why you didn't try to find trouble with Qi Jiaoyu. I'm too lazy to pay attention to him, Nan Men Shui said unconcernedly. He hugged the beauty at his side, kissed her and said with pleasure on his face, with a beauty in hand, idleness is the best of life. You guys fight and kill all day, don't you find it bothersome? That's true. The other seemed to agree. In this world, the strong eat the weak. Right now, you are in Great Peace City and no one dares to target you. However, a dragon is not a part of the scenery. You are accompanied by beauties every day, you look to be carefree, but in truth, you must find it boring. The other did not look at Nan Men Shui and said directly, those say, drunken and lying in the lap of a beauty, wake with the power of the world in hand, are you someone to submit? Nan Men Shui roared with laughter. No matter how clever your tongue is, what does it have to do with me? The other was not angry and said with a smile, I heard that Shi Yue has been searching for a person all this time. Then he said meaningfully, the Great Peace Treasure Pavilion has been sleeping for such a long time, it is time for it to see the light of day again. Nan Men Shui did not seem to hear it. In the past, Brother Nan Men dominated the Little Sparrow Water's 12 jia. With one call, the heroes all submitted. But right now, you have lost your spirit and immersed yourself in drunkenness, you are a completely different person. Nan Men Shui smiled. Other people do not know the reason and laugh at Brother Nan Men for falling off the path. However, I know of Brother Nan Men's love and your unchanging heart. This male stared at Nan Men Shui, emphasizing each word. Nan Men Shui's smile suddenly faded, his expression turning cold as his presence locked tightly onto the other. You investigated me. The light words were like the clang of bells and shot to the bottom of the other's heart. The other felt his blood and energies roil, his breathing becoming difficult. He was shocked. Such terrifying power. He gritted his teeth and persisted. Nan Men Shui, do you not want to rescue the person you love? Murderousness flashed in Nan Men Shui's eyes as his hand shot up. I have fire heart gall. The other's words caused Nan Men Shui's expression to suddenly change. He grabbed the other. Say that again. Looking at Nan Men Shui's handsome features that were twisted, and his undisguised murderousness as well as the presence that was securely locked onto him, the other began to suffocate. He gritted out, I have fire heart gall. Nan Men Shui's hand opened and the male collapsed on the ground. He was unable to climb up and the beauty beside Nan Men Shui was unconscious. Name your terms, Nan Men Shui said coldly. This male panted and his mind was filled with terror as though death was right in front of him. After panting for a while, this male struggled out, you have to exchange for it with an item from the Great Peace Treasure Pavilion. Great Peace Treasure Pavilion? You believe rumors like that, Nan Men Shui said with a cold smile. I have been in Great Peace City for this long and never heard of a Great Peace Treasure Pavilion before. It is true. The male finally managed to struggle back up into a standing position. You do not need to know where I learned of the information. I'm also working for someone else. Nan Men Shui glanced at the other and asked icily, what do you want? There are 3 items in the Great Peace Treasure Pavilion. The male recovered and so did his expression. Right now, we know that there is a stone steel inside. Stone steel. A look flashed through Nan Men Shui's eyes. Yes, you have studied the steels of the Great Peace Mo steels, so you should have already guessed that they are missing one piece. The male said gravely, the most important piece. When Shi Ziming created the steel forest, he hid the most important piece. Qi Diao Yu is also looking for this steel. Nan Men Shui was silent. He was starting to believe the other's words. Our condition is very simple. Use that steel to trade for the fire heart gall. The male said gravely, you help us obtain that steel, and the fire heart gall is yours. With the fire heart gall, not just 10,000-year mystical ice, even the strongest ice energy can be dissipated. Nan Men Shui stared at the other. How can I trust you? Look at this. The other took out an object and flashed it at Nan Men Shui. Nanmen Shui's pupils shrank into pinpoints. Chapter 609, Princess Xia, How Can We Stand By and Watch? Everyone, even though Xiao Mo Gu is strong, if we surrender so easily, after this, all three princesses will end up in the claws of this man. They will cry for the rest of their lives, just how tragic would it be? We all admire the princesses, how can we stand by and watch? A youth talked fervently facing the other youths. However, while he was fervent, the other people were silent. The fight between Xiao Mo Gu and Xin Yu had stunned them, and planted the seed of terror in their minds. This person was not demotivated and continued to talk. I know what everyone is worried about. This man is vicious and doesn't bat an eye when he kills. If we face him head-on, it is easy for us to be defeated. Therefore, we can only use cunning and not brute force. He stated what everyone thought and the crowd raised their heads. A voice sounded, does Brother Wang have a good solution? The person that was so fervently speaking to the crowd was Wang Kuan. He was a faithful follower of Princess Xian. When he learned that Princess Xian had invited Xiao Mo Gu, he had been furious. In a blink, Princess Wan had also sent an invitation to Xiao Mo Gu and this group of people exploded. Xin Yu was dislikable but he only had intentions on Princess Xiao. The suitors of the other two princesses only watched. Xin Yu had been killed, but an even more vicious competitor had appeared, Xiao Mo Gu, and he had received the favor of all three princesses. Something like this had never happened before. Never. But everyone had watched the battle between Xin Yu and Xiao Mo Gu. Even the bravest of them did not have the bravery to openly fight back. Also, Xin Yu had been the strongest of them. Xiao Mo Gu had turned Xin Yu into ashes, and none of them were a match. So their morale was low until Wang Shen revealed his idea and they raised their heads. Wang Shen became more excited and said, Xiao Mo Gu is powerful, and we naturally are not opponents in martial power. However, we have our own advantages. Xiao Mo Gu is just a brutish fighter. Would his fist be enough to break through the sky? We are of noble birth, well-mannered and cultured, and have Mabe. What does he have? His fists. When did we ever have to fight other people with our own fists? These young masters were all smart people and their eyes brightened. Right. When were they ever forced into a situation where they had to fight against other people themselves? They competed in terms of their father's status, wealth, servants, and family prestige. When did they ever compare based on their strengths? Wang Kuan said with a cold smile, Xin Yu thought too highly of himself. The heir to the Xin family was stupid. He went to fight against Xiao Mo Gu. A body that is worth 1,000 gold should not put themselves into danger. We are all worth our weight in gold, very valuable. Isn't it stupid to smash ourselves against trash clay pots? Brother Wang is right. The people praised. This spoke to their hearts. This little brother has just realized this and has come to discuss with everyone, Wang Shen said modestly. His tone changed and he said, since we understand our advantage, then it is easy. The three princesses want to recruit Xiao Mo Gu but he is just one expert. However, if all of us unite, the power that we represent is not something that Xiao Mo Gu can compare to. I believe with the intelligence of the three princesses, it will not take them any effort to realize this. Yes, yes. Yes, what is Xiao Mo Gu, can he compare to us? The people started to grumble. Wang Shen waited for the noise to die down slightly before immediately following up with, but we cannot just speak and not act, who will believe us? We need to show our muscle. Everyone, return and send letters home. It is easy to find an excuse. Just say that we are pursuing the princess, and the princess is show slight favor. However, there is a strong enemy and we need the family to send strong reinforcements. Everyone should be very skilled at this, and I do not need to waste my energy speaking on the specifics. When the people heard this, their eyes were aglow. Brother Wang is peerless in intelligence. This idea is very good. Brother Wang has a clear plan. This one admires you. And once the Great Peace Treasure Pavilion appears, the old people in the family will not be able to sit still. Yes, even more importantly, we did not lie. Ha! A thread of smugness flashed through Wang Shen's eyes. When the experts from everyone's families gather, I believe that we can exterminate Xiao Mo Gu with a little finger. Everyone roared with laughter. When they imagined that scene, they felt extremely good. Suddenly, someone suggested, why don't we ally together and swear to kill Xiao Mo Gu? The people agreed. Wang Shen was overjoyed inside and said gravely. We are all the young masters of our families, and have come for the princess. Why don't we call ourselves the Gentleman's Flower Protecting Alliance? What does everyone think? Everyone nodded. This name was accurate. With this the Gentleman's Flower Protecting Alliance was formed. I need to know your plan, Nanmen Shui said. Naturally, the mystery male said, according to our information, there is a set of conditions to open the Great Peace Treasure Pavilion. Even now, we do not know what the conditions are, but Shi Yue should know. Therefore, we have been observing Shi Yue. However, he has Yu Shuang and Chang Yuanhao with him and increased the difficulty of this task. We have still managed to obtain some information. What did you learn? Nanmen Shui asked in a deep voice. Shi Yue seems to be very interested in Xiao Mo Gu. That is normal. Nanmen Shui had a scornful smile on his face. Xiao Mo Gu was able to defeat the Peacock King Plume and there are many people interested in him. No. The mystery male was not angry. He shook his head and said, Xiao Mo Gu was able to cause the shifting star sands but what most people did not notice was that the place where he caused it was the Mo skill steals. This does not mean anything, Nanmen Shui said. Qi Jiao you noticed, the mystery male said, and the woman next to Xiao Mo Gu also noticed. The two met at the steel where Xiao Mo Gu had caused the shifting star sands and had a fight. It is a pity that we were not able to hear what they said. So you feel that Xiao Mo Gu is the key to entering the Great Peace Treasure Pavilion? Nanmen Shui said. He is the most likely Shi Yue's target, the mystery male said. What do you want me to do? Nanmen Shui was straightforward. You will go challenge Xiao Mo Gu, the mystery male said. Zhuo Mo's brow creased. In the past few days, he had been pondering how to obtain information from Princess Xia about Xiao Gua and Li Yingfeng, but even now, he did not have any good ideas. He shook his head. He could only act according to the situation. When the servant of Princess Xia saw Zhuo Mo, they came forward to welcome him and said respectfully, the princess has been waiting a long time for Sir. Finishing, the servant led the way. Following behind the servant, Zhuo Mo secretly asked Pu Yao and Wei. What solutions do you have? Pu Yao said coldly, it would be best if you do not think of trying to hold her hostage. The Wei family will have arranged for a very powerful expert to guard every generation of princess. Then what? Zhuo Mo asked helplessly. Think of a way to move her, Wei suddenly said. Move her? Zhuo Mo was stunned by this way of thinking. Wei did not reply and Zhuo Mo looked at Princess Xia. Princess Xia was lazily reclining on the sedan. There was only a light layer of silk on her body and what was underneath could be barely made out. Her left hand was propping up her chin, her waist and behind drawing out an arousing curve that caused people to uncontrollably swallow. When had the innocent little Mo Gu ever seen such a scene? His face immediately turned red and he stopped in his steps. However, he quickly composed himself and repeated in his mind, this was war. Raising his head, his eyes imperceptibly flickered across the surroundings. As expected, in the shadows close to the sedan, there was a female attendant standing silently. Zhuo Mo's heart shook. This middle-aged female attendant was most likely the expert that Pu Yao had spoken of. When he paid attention, Zhuo Mo noticed that the middle-aged attendant did not have any presence. If Swomo's gaze did not see her, then he would have been unable to detect her. An expert. Swomo did not dare to move rashly. Sit. The lips parted and soft words that softened one's bones came out. This was war. Swomo recited to himself as he sat down. You are very nervous. Princess Xia looked amusedly at Swomo. The plump and white wrist was propping up an extremely beautiful face whose eyes were full of feeling. Ha ha ha, no, Swomo laughed. His mind turned furiously. Move her, how could he move her? Princess Xia smiled and looked interestedly at Swomo. Swomo did not know what to say and remained silent. The room suddenly quieted and the atmosphere became awkward. In his sea of consciousness, Pu Yao and Wei heartlessly bombarded him. You need to speak more, form a connection, do you understand? Azwa, you cannot move women by doing this. You need to speak more. So embarrassing. Too embarrassing. How can I have such a student as useless as you? You aren't even able to talk to a woman. Pu Yao was furious. Azwa, this is a 1 in 1,000 chance. Wei led on. Say what? Swomo said helplessly. Pu Yao and Wei's voices stopped. A moment later, Pu Yao raised his head and said with a furrowed brow, weather? Hobbies? Outlook on life? What do women like? Right, Corps Commander was a woman, what did she like? Wei also had a pondering expression. What did Master like the most? Let me think, wait. I remember. What? Swomo and Pu Yao spoke at the same time. Fighting. Wei's face was excited. What Master liked the most was fighting. Fighting, endless fighting. Master once said that only fighting could cause her to become excited, only by fighting would she feel that she is different from the common rouge. Oh, but what is a common rouge? It describes women that are unacceptable. Pu Yao explained with a profound expression. Is Princess Xia one of the common rouge? Swomo asked. Of course not. Pu Yao and Wei answered at the same time. Swomo immediately realized and nodded vehemently. He said murderously, I understand. Chapter 610, Drink Wine. Princess Xia looked at Xiao Mo Gu, who had a nervous expression on his face. Surprised, she felt interested. The people around her were all young masters, and which one of them wasn't experienced with women? How long had it been since she had met such a virgin? Thinking about when she was a child and about the innocent faces around her that did not have fierce desire and thoughts of consuming her. Back when there was only the innocence of childhood, and they were her playmates. But then, everything changed. A certain soft place in Princess Xia's heart seemed to be lightly touched. Are you afraid of me? She asked lightly. Swomo, who had just opened his eyes and was preparing to utter a challenge, had his words forced back by the other's soft words. His eyes widened. Afraid of you? Swomo did not understand why Princess Xia would have such a strange idea. Did little Mo Gu look like a cowardly person? You are not afraid of me, why don't you look at me? Princess Xia's words caused Swomo's prepared words of, come, let's have a fight, to be swallowed back. Swomo found that he could not keep up with the other's thoughts. Oh, why couldn't he look at her? He opened his eyes wide and then stared at Princess Xia. So beautiful, that, this feeling, why would he think of swallowing? An illusory spell. Swomo shook. Princess Xia saw Swomo's change and couldn't help but burst into laughter. In that moment, she was very attractive and her smile seemed to light up the room. Swomo was almost unable to move his eyes away and his breathing rate increased. Just an illusory spell, you want to defeat little Mo Gu, but, so powerful. Come taste this night draw wine, this is a famous vintage in the Mo world, and can rival the Granny Meng ghost wine. It is a pity that I only have one bottle. After drinking this, you cannot ask for more from me. Princess Xia poured wine for Zhuo Mo with a smile. Her skin was as white as snow, and as fine as porcelain. Her body was slightly tilted towards Zhuo Mo, and the deep valley in front of her chest seemed to have an unusual power that caused people to unconsciously sink into it. Zhuo Mo felt a wave of heat rise from his lower half. His mouth was dry and he had a strange feeling. Such a powerful illusory spell. It was even more powerful than the illusory spells that the paper crane girl had cast in Wukong Mountains in the past. Was this her attack? Determination flashed across Zhuo Mo's eyes. How could a true man not receive the move? Without another word, Zhuo Mo secretly cast a bone-crushing obscuring flash with his left hand as he picked up the night draw wine with his right hand and drank all of it. When the wine entered his throat, Zhuo Mo couldn't help but pause. The taste of this wine was completely different compared to the Granny Meng Ghost wine. The Granny Meng Ghost wine was as hot as fire, and burned like a ball of flame when it entered his throat. This night draw wine was cool and light, reaching directly into his mind and making him unspeakably comfortable. The taste wasn't bad. The illusory spell hadn't been broken. Princess Xia laughed lightly. Your rough gulping is suited to drinking the Granny Meng Ghost wine but not to the night draw wine. Sip, and let the wine swirl around your mouth before slowly swallowing it. Try it, the feeling of the wine will be different. Finishing, Princess Xia picked up the wine cup. Her eyes were slightly closed, and her gentle and seductive red lips contrasted against the snowy white porcelain. Zhuo Mo lost focus slightly. But he quickly raised his alertness and focused. He copied Princess Xia and took small sips. When the night draw wine swished a few rounds around his mouth, an unique fragrance spread into his body. In this moment it was as though he was soaking in cool water, so comfortable that he almost groaned. So comfortable. Princess Xia closed her eyes and said as though she was talking in her sleep, when I was young, I liked to drink night draw wine the most. Daddy didn't like me drinking so I sneaked into Daddy's wine cellar. One time, I accidentally drank too much and fell asleep in the wine cellar. When Daddy caught me with the goods. She poked out her tongue like a child that had been caught doing bad things by her parents. He sealed the wine cellar. Even now, it hasn't been reopened. Now, no one knows that there is a wine cellar there. I really miss the time when Daddy was here. There seemed to be something flashing through Princess Xia's eyes. She suddenly raised her face and threw back all of the wine. Putting down the wine cup, her cheeks were blushed and her eyes were dazed. What bad things did you do when you were little? Zhuo Mo could feel the sorrow and longing in Princess Xia's words. It was like when he thought of the sect leader and the Shishu. But it was not something that he could state aloud here. Hearing her question, he shook his head. In childhood? I don't know. You don't know? Princess Xia was surprised by this answer. My memory was erased and my appearance has been changed, I don't know anything about my past. Zhuo Mo replied truthfully. Originally, he hadn't wanted to say it. While this was something that did not have to be kept a secret, he did not want to casually tell other people. However, Princess Xia's reminiscing seemed sincere to him, so he spoke of it. Ah! Princess Xia covered her mouth, her expression shocked. She hadn't expected it to be such a terrifying answer. Sorry. She said, full of apology. It's nothing. Zhuo Mo shook his head unconcernedly. In any case, I don't remember it. It is not a bad thing to not remember. Princess Xia smiled slightly and then poured a cup for Zhuo Mo. Sometimes, it is cruel to remember. Zhuo Mo drank the wine all in one gulp. Even though it was better to sip it slowly, he liked drinking it in one gulp better. This made him feel it was very exhilarating. Princess Xia's words touched him. He thought of the phrase, "Do not forget," that frequently appeared in his dreams, and a hint of bitterness rose. However, it is crueler to forget things what one doesn't want to forget. Suemo poured a cup for himself and drained it. Princess Xia stilled. She almost couldn't believe that this was something that this innocent youth said. She slowly pondered this and her thoughts wandered. Her mind wandered in this moment. Moments later, she smiled brightly and raised her wine cup. For this phrase, drink. Then she copied Suemo to drain the cup in one gulp. When she put down the wine cup, her cheeks were flushed red, and her eyes blurred. Her appearance was slightly disheveled and it added even more attractiveness. Her eyes moved and it became a flirtatious look. Princess Xia looked at Suemo and said lightly, "I'm very curious what you have come to find me for." Suemo was slightly tipsy at this time and had long thrown Puyao and Weiss words to the back of his mind. When he heard Princess Xia's words, he did not avoid it and said directly, "I have come to beg Princess for 2 people. Which 2 people are worth you coming to make a request?" Princess Xia looked wryly at Suemo, "2 of my Shouja friends. I heard that Princess Xia saved them, so I come to request them from Princess." Suemo did not avoid Princess Xia's gaze and said seriously, "Shouja friends?" Princess Xia was slightly astounded. "I hadn't thought that you actually had Shouja friends." "Yes, I had picked 2 female Shouja previously, you have good information sources." The last word carried some flirtatiousness, and the eyes were glimmering. "I coincidentally saved another friend," Suemo said honestly. "So you wanted to lure me here?" Princess Xia had amusement on her face when she looked at Suemo. "Yes." Suemo docilely admitted. "Are these 2 female Shouja very important to you?" Princess Xia asked. "Very important," Suemo nodded and said without hesitation. Princess Xia covered her mouth and giggled, "So you like female Shouja? If this news goes public, many female Mo's hearts will be heartbroken." Suemo choked on the words. Let's continue." A hint of mischievousness flashed through Princess Xia's eyes. "I can give them to you, but I had planned on using them as maids. Now that I give them to you, what benefit can you give me? Speak." Suemo's expression was serious. Even though he was greedy in personality and liked to bargain, he did not have any thought of bargaining on this matter. "Can I first think about it? Have you owe me a favor? When I think of something then, I will tell you." Princess Xia had a sly expression. Suemo was startled and then he reacted after a moment. He said cautiously, "After finding them, I plan to leave Great Peace City." "Leave Great Peace City?" Princess Xia stilled slightly and a hint of disappointment flashed through her eyes. She quickly recovered and said with a smile, "So you have come especially for them?" "Yes." Suemo nodded. "I really don't want to give them to you," Princess Xia said with a light laugh. "It is not very easy to find a good person to drinking with." But when she saw Suemo's nervous expression, she burst into laughter and said to herself, "It is rare that I am kind, I have to maintain this. Don't worry, I will give them to you." Finishing, she turned and gave orders in a low tone. The middle-aged attendant in the corner glanced at Suemo. She did not seem to move, but moments later, a servant came in with 2 other female attendants. "Xiao Guo. Li Yingfeng." Suemo's eyes suddenly widened. It was hard to control his expression of joy, but he suppressed it and did not call out to the 2 of them. "Here, from today onwards, they belong to you," Princess Xia said to Suemo with a smile. Suemo hadn't expected that the matter would proceed so smoothly. Looking at Princess Xia, he gravely bowed. "If Princess thinks of something you need, please request it as long as I have not left Great Peace City." Xiaoguo's eyes suddenly widened and became disbelieving. Li Yingfeng looked at Suemo anxiously. "Then you will owe me for now." Princess Xia's beautiful eyes stared at Suemo as she said with a smile, "I like it best when people owe me. When I think of something, you cannot fail to uphold your word." "Never." Suemo said seriously. "Take your friends and leave," they had significant hardship on the road, Princess Xia said with a light laugh. Suemo also desired to return. He raised his folded hands to Princess Xia. Farewell. He stood with one hand pulling Xiao Gua and the other pulling Li Yingfeng as he prepared to rise into the air. Suddenly a bright voice sounded in the sky. Where is Xiao Mo Gu? Nan Men Shui asks for a fight. Princess Xia looked at Suomo's frozen expression. Her hand covered her mouth as she laughed. This is not my fault. A hint of joy flashed imperceptibly through her eyes. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.